Well. Welcome back, everybody. How's it going? It's me, Comic Crack. I'm here with Rasa, and we're here for our Sunday floating chat. Sorry for the delay. I had some technical issues. Surprise, out here in the Canadian wilderness. We have to get our Wi-Fi. I have to chop down some trees. I have to fight some bears. We have to dust the snow off the antennas. I don't know, something like that. Anyway. But we're here. We're here for a live chat to talk about what we've been reading lately, and just kind of catch up a little bit.
Yeah.
How's it going, Lisa? What's going on?
Hi. So, hey, everybody, whoever comes and sees us. So,
Yeah.
Hello. Surprise.
Yeah, here we are. I'm
The-
going to try my best to mute in between because I've got my speaker right in front of me. I had to resort to my phone, so the sound
It's
is a little...
okay. I don't hear that noise anymore, by the way. So
Oh,
you can stay put.
Okay.
Before it was like that crackling noise, but now it disappeared. So yeah, I'm okay. We're just getting along with things. Finishing school, could you believe, for my son?
Yes.
First year almost finished. Couple weeks left. No, 1 week. No, 2 weeks left, I think.
Oh, he's still in school now. It's not summer break yet.
No.
Oh, I see. Okay. So
Yeah,
how long does he have for summer break then? 2 months still, or is it less time?
month and a week, I think.
Oh, okay.
Because we break the school. The year finishes in 21st of July.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So and then from 21st. Well, from 22nd until September the 1st, I presume.
Right.
So yeah, we're still at school. Kind of weird in the hot season, but in England is different. In my country, so 3 months we get holidays. Not great for parents.
Yeah.
but great for kids. I remember fondly that beginning of that first day of school holiday, you just could not contain yourself. Like, oh my god, I'm not going. I'm not waking up early.
Yeah.
I used to find that absolutely fantastic. I used to feel like absolutely like really joyful,
Yeah.
And the more, and you kind of tend to forget because it's like 3 months. It's quite a long time for kids, like a long period of time. And you tend to forget you have to go to school until like last week before. Then you go, oh shoot, I have to go back to this nonsense called education. So yeah, my son is still at school. It's kind of weird for me as well to get used to this, but hey, we have to do what we have to do. He gets lots of half terms. And I think that's how they kind of consolidate with that kind of the thing. I don't know, the learning education systems.
Hello, Donald Rex.
Hello, Donald. So yeah, we were talking about just before we started live. We were talking about movies. So to be quite honest with all of you, I took a break from reading comics for a bit because I started to be kind of like I honestly feel not getting my comic books as often as I kind of would like to, in a way, like not like right because I don't have a pull list, so I have to wait until I chunk up a little bit so I can receive something. And there was a period of time when I waited more than a month for my comic books to some of it to arrive. I was like, Jesus, that's a long period of time. We kind of get disconnected from this world of reading comic books kind of often. So that anyway, I enjoyed it because then I didn't have to kind of like go to library. It became kind of too much of like a habit.
Right.
And library started losing I would start losing interest in what they have. Wasn't interested to kind of pick it up and read. So it was actually quite refreshing to be very honest with you. I felt it was sometimes needed, and especially when summer, like quite busy. When you have days off with your family, you want to spend time with family and do your stuff, with family.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And whatever your hobbies are in summertime, like for me, like gardening is kind of full on, and I have to take care of this and that, and my head is like. But then I usually remember it before sleep. So in like digital stuff, like sometimes I look it up and on Twitter. That's kind of actually more comic driven now, Twitter. I don't know how that happened. Maybe it's just because of the way I have it, and because the Musk has changed something. Because before I used to get so much nonsense on Twitter, and now I don't really. I tend more artist and comic related stuff, which I'm pleased about. to honestly, because then I don't have that, running bullshit around where people complain to each other all the time.
Right.
Like, so it feels great because it's much more relaxing
There's a bunch of
experience.
people have jumped ship to that Blue Sky or whatever. The guy who
Threads.
invented Twitter, he created this Blue Sky, I think it's called. So that's the thing that's the platform that I think people are jumping over to give that a try because they're just sick of Twitter.
Oh, didn't they? I thought there's this Zuckerberg's new stuff called Threads.
There's that one too. Yeah, absolutely. There's Threads as well too. Yeah.
There's another one. Oh, there's another one.
Yeah, Threads I think is the one that, like you said, I think that's the Facebook affiliated one. And then Blue Sky is Jack Dorsey, who's the guy who invented Twitter. That's his new platform. So he's created another one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the layout is like I'm on it. I got an invite from Chaos and Comics to go. I've checked in a few times, but I mean, my social media intake has decreased a hell of a lot since like even last year, right? So, so I think that's the new one that people are trying out. Daryl D, hello, how are you? Yeah, okay. So I think people are doing that. Twitter, when I do go and check, I'm noticing I have to block a lot more ads than I ever used to. So I think there's been a change there. Because for the longest time, I blocked so many ads on Twitter that I was scrolling like ad-free, which was fantastic. But now it seems like every fourth or fifth tweet, it's an ad, So I feel like there's been a resurgence of breaking through all of that stuff that's people spent all this time blocking. Now you get inundated with it again. So. But whatever, the that I get out of it, it doesn't really affect me too much because I'm not really hanging there a ton, so it's fine.
Okay, cool. Anyway, so anyway, we were talking about. So I mainly caught up with some like TV shows.
Yes.
Whatever I wanted to was watching the movies. So we were just talking about that. We and my family went to see Spider-Man. Yes. Which I was so excited about because I really liked the first one.
Yep.
I didn't have expectations, which I don't tend to. I tend to not to even watch much of trailers. I didn't watch a trailer of that Spider-Verse whatsoever. I think maybe once. But the whole point is I have a 5-year-old who, is quite difficult to get attention in cinemas. And I was really worried because what I was just trying to say before we started live is that it's a very long movie. And to expect 5-year-old to sit down still for 3 hours because of the breaks before the movie starts, don't forget.
Yep.
That's quite a long period of time to be, even for yourself as an adult, just be in cinema and be okay with it. There was moments where my son was like, I'm bored because there was too much talk. Because there was moments of that break of like you have to tell a story at the end of the day, not only action. And my son is like, of course I want action. But surprisingly enough, we had people with other kids as well sitting down. And one child who was sitting next to me, he was like a monkey on I don't know where. It's like he had drank some Gatorade before or Red Bull. And suddenly he was just like circling around like a dog in that chair, and he was hitting me and hitting his dad, and he was almost climbing on the top of his dad's head. And he was kind of similar age, and I was like, oh my god, my son is just sitting there, not even partaking to be like asking, and he just gets excited by movements of Spider-Man. And I was so very surprised. So I really good experience with my son being in that movie. And I absolutely loved it. I liked the soundtrack. I Ghost Spider or whatever, Gwen from another universe. I like her character a lot. And I think this kind of limelight she was given in the beginning of the movie was really kind of interesting. But too much information, for God's sake, in one movie. My head was pounding. I was like, come out. It's like, what is that? What? And I know this movie will be need to be watching it several times probably to register information they were trying to give you.
Yep.
How many characters they introduced? How many? The Spider-Verse, which is what they call that movie, is like for sure. It's like, oh my god, there's so many of them, and you don't realize until you see that in the whole screen. I mean, if you are a Spider-Man fan, of course. I bet you would be giggling to the point of no return because we were giving so much attention to many characters, and I was really glad about that. Yes, Miles Morales was the key. I love Miles Morales. I think he's my Spider-Man, to be honest.
Yep.
I like the Peter Parker from Alternative Universe, that dad. I
Yeah.
think he's hilarious. Absolutely
Yeah.
fantastic. And I really enjoyed Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. And then that was really, I was like, oh my God, look at that, Tobey Maguire doing the Spider-Man movie. But I really like Miles Morales. I think he is, he was not, I mean, I don't want to spoil it if people haven't
Right.
seen it yet, but it's absolutely bloody fantastic. I can't wait to get, I probably definitely gonna maybe buy online a digital copy, or I will have, I don't know if I want to buy a DVD like a Blu-ray, because it's another trinket you have to have in the house, which is kind of trying to reduce that amount of that kind of stuff. But
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely fantastic little flick, man. I mean, it's a really long one, but and I was surprised.
Moved really well though. Like the animation was stunning. First of all, like the arts, the design of everything was stunning. And I only found it dragged like maybe the last 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I started feeling pretty antsy. Every time, the rest of it, I found it moved so smoothly. But honestly, like I spent so much time looking at backgrounds and looking at like what was happening on the edges. Like the art style was gorgeous, and it really excites me because the Portuguese artist whose name I'm now forgetting is going to be working with them. The guy that did Portugal, he did the Golden Age.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, he's going to be working on that with them on his first animated movie. And when I was watching the Spider-Gwen scenes, a lot of those backgrounds, that kind of full watercolor and the way it was shifting, that is a lot of his textures in his book. So it made me even more excited to see what he's going to do with them. It gives me a lot of hope that it feels like this kind of is signifying a real change in kind of animation and how they're dealing with the digital. My son and I talked about it for a while afterwards because he was noticing the same things. He's got way more experience with a lot of these platforms than I do. So he was saying some words that I sort of understood, but he was talking in the technological terms. And it really gives me hope that there's going to be something amazing that they're able to do together, because his style is very painterly with his colors and things like that. So I think they're going to be able to translate that really well. But I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. Someone in the chat will remember. Pedrosa. Yes, Pedrosa. That's exactly it. Thank you, AFPC. That's it. Yeah, I don't know how that relationship started. I don't know if he came to them or they came to him. I don't know if maybe he saw what they were doing with the movie and approached them. I don't know the backstory of it. I'd like to think that that's it, because I mean, sitting there watching it, it was so much like his books that it makes total sense that they would work together. And I cannot wait. I don't think there's been an announcement as far as like what the story is going to be or anything. I think it's still in kind of like the discussion phase from what I remember. This was a few weeks ago that Colin sent me a link about it on Twitter, actually. So we'll see what they do, if they kind of do one of his stories and make it a new movie, or if he does something original for a movie. But either way, man, oh man, it's a gorgeous movie. It was really quick. There was a lot of stuff happening at the beginning where it was really like fast. That kind of made me dizzy a little bit, and it took me a bit to kind of center myself in it. But once you did, it was amazing. Like the appearance of the vulture, not a spoiler at all because it's in the beginning, just that animation style of the vulture looking like he was made out of paper was beautiful contrast with everything else going on, right? So we enjoyed it. We went to see it just yesterday is when we went to see it. So it's fresh in my head still.
That's nice. I was, the soundtrack is great. All music levels, so that it's really, because the way they play the music, and I think that's what really starting to become more evident, is that movie scenes and music just flows together. You know what I mean? And I really like that. I really enjoyed Gwen's beginning. That then she was starting to fly around in the city. That when the music started, I was like, "Oh my god, that's really really nice tune." You know, I was just like going with it. I kind of forgot where I was in that minute. But I do agree that very busy at the beginning, slow, and we had this like, they give you lots of information at the beginning, and then lots of action happened, but then they flatten it down completely, and you're like, okay, you need to like get on with it. Kind of like had this moment, like, you know, that romantic moment with Miles and Gwen. upside down.
I love that. Yeah.
That was beautiful, and it was kind of rolling for a long time. I was like, okay, I get it. They really do have something for each other,
Yep.
And then I kind of felt like, like because of the old action beforehand, you're like, okay, something has to happen again. But what I was actually, I now remember, kind of pissed off is because it stopped, and it's like 3 hours and you're not finished. Because I wasn't aware.
Yeah, right.
Because as I say, I don't track that much information. I was like, like literally like really sighing out loud, and I didn't realize like everybody's like, it seems to be like looked a little bit. So I was like, I really want more, but
Yep.
I think that's why I felt kind of exhausting, because like I really do like an animation, but if anybody who has problem with the flashing lights and stuff, that's just impossible, especially in cinema where everything everything is like dark behind you. In front of you, you just have this flickering screen at all times. And I think that's why maybe I'm not saying I was like, but I think my brain was like tiring at the beginning, because it's a long stuff, like it wasn't just 1 hour or 2 hours. It was like 2.5 hours something movie.
Yep.
So it's a long period of time. But anyway, it wasn't dragging, which is great at some points, as I say. But yeah, it's still. I think a lot of people haven't had a like really high expectation, but I think this movie did really reward them back for the waiting, because I think it was delayed for a little bit, isn't it, before release? So I really and I was really excited because we were sitting down, watching that, and my son was like really into Spider-Man, and you really like that Spotty guy because you found it hilarious when everything comes out from him, and you're like, oh look, and he's like doing this all the time. So
Yeah.
that was really good, and a lot of good characters as well.
Yeah, I thought they did a really good job. I mean, for me personally, I love the first one a lot. I think it's amazing. I think I like this one a little bit better, but they're honestly so close for me. And it's 90% of that is because of the animation, because of the style, because of the choices, and because of like the bravery with mixing and matching all these different kind of art styles on the screen at one time. Was really, it just seems adventurous for something like that. You know what I mean? It seems like they're trying to push out of the box a little bit and expose you to something a little different. I think that's a pretty challenging thing to kind of get across in a screen. But I mean, that's the kind of stuff, again, like we've talked about a million times. That's why I want to see. If I'm going to go see a movie, push the boundaries, right? Like, don't just give me another Pixar looking movie. As much as I like Pixar movies, give me something else. Pixar's got that shit locked down. Like, you do your own thing, you do something different. And seeing that technology advance to the degree where they can pull this stuff off beautifully, I really enjoyed it. Like, I'd see it again easily. It'll probably be one I'll probably wait, because they're doing a third one, and I think that's it. They're only going to do 3, from what I understand. I'm assuming that eventually they'll have like a box set or something, because I would love to see the behind the scenes stuff. I'd love to see the animators working, and I'd like to see a little bit of that world, and some documentaries on that side of things, just to see how they came to create this thing, So yeah, it was damn good. It was nice to go to a Marvel-ish movie, because I know it's Sony or whatever it is, and enjoy it again, because the last couple of Marvel ones I've just been kind of blah about. They've just been okay. They haven't really amazed me. So it was nice to see one that was really, killed it. I haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy, but I heard that new one is really good too. So that'll be the next one that we see. But I don't think we're going to make it to the theater to see that one, though.
We watched it, not in cinema, but we did watch it. And it's really good, the Guardians. It's kind of like, because they were, I know, the main subject point is Raccoon, the Rocket. And he kind of sort of takes limelight, but not really. I don't know. Just kind of difficult, because I'm still digesting it. We just watched it, actually. So I'm digesting the information. I really like the Groot. Still my favorite character.
Yeah.
He has so many right moments, and like they give him so many special abilities. And now I know why people are talking about him and being Venom, because there's a scene. I don't know if it's not a spoiler, but anyway, he has ability to gain those branches out, and he has this multiple branches out, with each branch having a gun. So everybody's like, "Oh, Venom, Groot!" Now everybody wants to have Venom. That's what I heard. I don't know if it's true, but I know it's even like Lego, because I like it. Me and my son loves Lego. Even Lego, I think they're gonna want to come out with Groot being Venom, kind of slash like half. But anyway, Groot had always been fantastic, even though, like, I am Groot. That's the only thing you hear, and then people explain to you what the hell happened there. But it's just like it's dynamic between the Gamora and her because it's been such a gap since the last one for me. I was like, what the hell happened to Gamora? I thought she died. She did die. But then we watched another Marvel movie where she actually is alive. Now she's back from being from the past. So she's not really that Gamora who has died, but the Gamora from the past. So she doesn't have memory. And I was like, what happened to her? And then they keep on kind of telling you snippet information if you haven't, for example, Thanos dropped her from there, the Infinity Stone, and then boom, she's back, but she's not really back. And our Star-Lord is absolutely completely destroyed because she doesn't love him because she doesn't know him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's like, what's your name? And he gets like almost scary. And the beauty of the Guardians, you have those moments. I think the only Marvel movie where you can, because of the obscure or not A-list superheroes, are they quirky, Guardians of the Galaxy characters you have, but they can pull off those scenes where you have those puppy eyes or crying, on those moments of like jokiness but slash sadness.
Yeah.
And this movie seems to be had both, like in really good succession. Music, as always, was spectacularly well, which I was very surprised by, because I don't think that you can, like kind of pull it off again. Yeah, you got that completely right. And then the High Evolutionary is the villain, which I have no clue anything about it, because that's the era of Marvel comic books I have not even reached to read.
Yeah.
And I don't know who the hell that person is. I got really quite confused, to be honest, because I was like, I mean, I heard the name, I know the name, but I don't know what the hell is happening around him. And then the way he was portrayed in here, and the way they were saying why he wanted to do it, like the typical, that's which is kind of too much now. A typical need where you have a supervillain and he wants to create a perfect society,
a utopia. Yeah, right.
Yeah. And he always experiments.
Utopia makes you a villain. It's an interesting angle. Yeah.
Yeah. And he wants to, and then he wants to create this perfect human / whatever beings. Doesn't have to be human, but it has to be a perfect being in his own mind.
Right.
And he wants to create that. So he creates this place. I don't want to, as I say, spoil it for you as well, but he creates this place where, you can't have that. It just doesn't work because there's some flaw anywhere. And his absolute obsession with Rocket. So basically, you got origin of Rocket, which is absolutely great, because I think lots of people were asking, because you keep on saying like everybody's calling Squirrel, Rabbit, or who the hell you are. And it's like, I'm not Rabbit, no, I'm not a squirrel. And he's like, finally, he does, because he himself actually is not aware what he is. And then he actually, in this movie, he will tell you all of it. So, which is great, I think. I think it's needed. And also, I think this movie will basically move away from some of the characters and come into a new something. We kind of like Marvel's now doing that. I think throughout for a couple of movies now, kind of refreshing the cycle of the whatever stories they want to tell.
Right.
So because all that blip stuff happens, people coming back, people not coming back, like Natasha, who Black Widow, who's not. If Gamora can come back, so why not the Black Widow wouldn't come back? You know what I mean? Comics, like that's the thing.
Exactly.
Like, hey, what kind of rule is that?
Comics and soap operas, they're the same. Nobody ever dies.
So I love it. And Nebula were great. Nebula has a lot, like kind of throughout the action, she's changing the characteristics to what you kind of expect from Nebula, because she used to be like, and then now she's kind of she was part of the team. And I enjoyed it. I don't know. I have, as I say, I'm still digesting it, because, as you say, Marvel movies these days, like you have, like, I don't know why we need, but we need kind of like to be blown off our seats when we watch superhero movies. But I think it's that really high bar to give to movie makers to create something amazing. I mean, you can do that, but people want everything so fast. if you have given them a time, and I think because they want to make money, they won't use that much time, and you will create whatever they're creating, the formula they have already, which is works for them. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know
totally.
how, and I don't know really how Guardians were successful in cinemas, to be honest, because I wasn't going. We weren't going because like we weren't testing those waters yet with my son. But I don't know how popular, because it doesn't seem like I heard much people like talking exciting things about it. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe I was, because I wasn't maybe looking or something, but I felt, honestly, sitting down at home watching it's perfectly fine. I felt.
Yeah.
Because there's some scenes. There was once. Oh, and Warlock. Interesting take on Warlock.
Oh, right. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I like I like the actor. He is underrated, but the way they were portraying Warlock in this movie was you can like it or you can dislike. You can really dislike it or you can really like it, because Warlock's ability, where he goes into cocoon and he kind of reborns himself. They used that in the movie when he was kind of born again. And I'm not going to say much because it would be kind of like a bit of a spoiler, then you kind of have conceptions of it. But where he's from and why we took it, but kind of they rounded up the story from previously. So if you have watched previous movies, it's kind of, oh yeah, I understand now. My previous Guardians of the Galaxy movies. So they kind of really tied it up all. So everything what they were doing, who they met, kind of like went in and they kind of like round up the story for them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I say I enjoyed it. I don't know if that I talk a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll like it. It's one of our favorite set of movies too so far. Out of the whole family, it's one of those that we all really love. And then I guess the other one, which I haven't watched yet either, is the Nick Fury Shield one.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
I'm feeling similar to what AFPC says. Like I just feel like I'm getting a little burnt out, which is why like the last ones didn't do much for me. Like Ant-Man, I wasn't too keen on, you know what I mean? So I feel like there is a bit of a burnout for sure. Even the Thor movie, even though it had eternity in it and stuff, sort of had eternity in it, not really, but kind of.
Yeah.
I'm just feeling a little burnt out from them, you know what I mean? Like I feel like I need something exciting again in it. I need something to kind of like thrill me again, and it's just not there. But that's why I'm glad that stuff like Spider-Man exists, because that's the stuff I want to see. That I want to see art. I want to see, you know what I mean? I want to go see this beautiful art explosion on a huge screen and just get blown away. But yeah, I'm feeling a little burnt out as well.
No, I agree. I mean, I find it. That's why I find it to go into cinemas to watch some of the movies is not unnecessary anymore. It's a good way to watch. Like in the good old times when you watched your DVDs or Blu-rays. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's not nothing bad enough. People now having almost the same size of wall TVs, then So it's almost like half of the cinema in there.
Like others have said, no matter what you think of them, the MCI in its prime was over after Endgame. Yeah. Yeah, and Andrew's opinion before that. Yeah, I can see that for sure. I can absolutely see that. Yeah, cool. So do you want to jump into something that you've read?
Oh yeah, just before I wanted to ask, have you watched The Secret Invasion?
No, I haven't watched it yet. No, I haven't seen it yet. I'm curious to see it. I've heard mixed things about it. I've heard that people yeah, we got you though. We got you though, Andrew. Yeah. I'm curious to see it, but again, we haven't rushed to watch it. Again, it feels like the steam has, even for us in the house who went to all of these things and watched all these things that were coming out, the wind has kind of come out of our sails a bit, where we don't feel that pressure to kind of watch it immediately. We just we'll get to it when we get to it. So
yeah, I have really mixed feelings about that.
Okay. Have you watched it? Watched the whole thing? Like, has it all been aired now?
No, it's only weekly. So once a week you can watch.
Okay.
I watched 3. I think there's 3 episodes so far, and I don't know. I don't know. It feels kind of like I think maybe I should wait until they all comes out and then just watch it all like a cinema movie. But I like the characters. Nick Fury past is interesting because that's where they're dwelling into, because they keep on jumping to 1995. So then the Carol Danvers movie came out where scrolls appeared and she was basically there to save them, or Nick Fury kind of tried
Yes.
to save them, blah blah blah. It's basically jumping from that point onwards.
Okay.
And then they coming into future because of the blip and stuff. They mentioning all that kind of stuff, but they keep on going back to what happened because Secret Invasion is, if you know where, or anybody of you would know where, it's all about scrolls. And
Yes.
I'm sorry, since I read the Scrolls comic book with the cows, I can't stop thinking about it because
Yeah.
because that's what, because when they're mentioning about them being there for like more than 30 years
Right.
on Earth, I was like, oh my god, is there a Skrull cow down there or not?
Yeah. Scroll burgers.
But anyway, it's very the villain who they're taking, it's really interesting because they're showing the powers, and it seems to be they will go for like extreme levels because they've been killing off characters actually. Who you'll find out yourself. Not sure if I'm like feeling it right, but a lot of people are having ups and downs about it because they just like gone.
Right.
Like like completely like wiped out the character's history in a way, kind of the way, you know, like feels like it. But anyway,
Yeah. Right.
I what I really disliked is AI beginning of Marvel using it.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing. That's the one thing I hear all the time is that the intro, people hate the intro.
I don't hate it. I don't have that strong feeling of it. I'm disappointed because the level of investment, I don't know what technology you want to leap forward with it, but you know, you don't have to. Or you think that maybe you think you're clever, but most of the time that's kind of things when you are, I don't know, but it's still a fresh thing with those AI stuff, creating all those things. And it's like, you know, you can visibly see it. It's not humanly made. It seems to be quite choppy, beautiful to look at color-wise. But you know straight away, oh, my husband, the first picture came up, AI.
Yeah.
I was like, how do you know? AI.
I know your husband would know for sure. He would know.
No, yeah, because graphic design, you know, like you can see it. Exactly. And he's been playing around with it as well. So he says, I'm going to lose my job probably sooner or later. I was like, well, then don't speak that, because that's what basically it does. But you can, if the more it goes, the longer it goes with that AI thing, I think the more people will realize impurities is not bad. Mistakes isn't bad either, because it makes you look different. You can't, like, you know, like we say, well, just now we talked about how we're tired of the same, like Marvel Universe. I think you will get tired of a lot of things which looks absolutely similar to each other. I mean, even though how fantastic that AI system can be. But anyway, it's just my opinion.
That's the thing with new technologies, though. They make this big appearance, people get excited, and it eventually levels off, and they'll use it for things like, because in film world, writers obviously, hello Mind the Comics.
Hello.
The art department, there's some people that are doing like pre-visualizations for stuff. They're in fear of losing their jobs. Obviously, writers are in fear of losing their jobs. I think that it's going to be this blip. It'll be embraced for a little while and overutilized, and then it'll kind of level out where they use it maybe for some influence, but then they do some kind of pre-visualizations, and then people actually take over and use that as a jumping off point to kind of create something themselves using those ideas and things. I think it'll level out eventually. It's new technology. People get super excited. They want to use it all the time. It floods the market, and then eventually it goes away or it adapts. You know, like we're always going to have it obviously in some form or another, but I think that it'll level out eventually.
I think I understand all technology all needs to be introduced and has to be used to understand the difference between two. But I just sometimes feel like those kind of like full on, oh, let's embrace everything straight away, let's show off to, and especially a big house like Marvel or Disney / whatever Marvel, when they start using that, it's making a statement straight away, which is not great for the people who works for that same industry we're talking about.
Right.
Because then, you know, let's cut the corners. I mean, why don't you? We don't have to use manpower at many levels of artistic usage, I think. And as a person who likes mistakes and I like impurities from like artists, you see imperfections, even though I am perfectionist when I want to draw in same ways, but you see the difference when created by. artificial intelligence,
Right.
because at the end of the day, as we have our personalities. AI, whoever you instill that personality into it while you're typing it. I don't know how does it work, to be quite honest with you. So give you that opinion. I don't know, but it's fun toy. I bet it is fun toy. But like big statement by Marvel to do that in the TV show, it's kind of like that's what like let it, like I know you want to use it, have to be so obvious, like in that sense. Maybe you shouldn't have, in my opinion, but
right.
Who thinks what,
Well, I mean, I wonder if there'll eventually be a blend of both, right? It's like a blend of AI and some kind of, artistic vision, where they start blending the two mediums, using AI in a different way. I mean, because I follow some people, a good friend of mine, Fletcher, he uses it quite a bit for some stuff on Instagram. And I mean, it has its own personality for sure. There's a look to some of it. And I love the look of some of it. Like some of the stuff that he kind of quote unquote creates, or puts in the algorithm that it creates or whatever. It's really imaginative looking, and it feels like there's a lot of potential for seeing things blended together because it's kind of sucking in the entirety of the internet and kind of creating an image out of it. You get this amazing blend of styles into something that's new, because a lot of the guys that I see using it, their stuff ends up looking similar to each other, but on its own, all of that stuff has a very unique look to it that I think is really interesting, So I'm really curious where it's going to go and what that next step is going to be. It feels like it's kind of accelerated at such a pace to get to where we are now. I'm curious what, like 6 months from now or a year from now, what that's going to look like and how they're going to use that stuff, right? So, because some of it is really unbelievable looking, and then some is kind of dull, but that's the way that it is.
Yeah. But as I say, it's interesting. I just, kind of think that was it needed. I don't know if it was. I mean, the house of theirs has so much probably talent, already in the house. I think. I don't think that's the thing. You have already humans who works for you. So you could have just done it in more than anything, but I don't know. I just maybe just
not as quick though. That's the thing. Not as quick and not as efficiently.
Yeah.
Like everything is time limit. And I mean, my controversial take on some of this is like nobody ever guaranteed that an art career was going to be a career, right? Like it's a pretty, you're in a pretty good place if you can kind of make a living off of art, because that shit ain't easy. And people's taste, like forget about AI, people's taste change so rapidly. There's never really a guarantee for like some artistic career, right? Like it's something, you're always on kind of rocky footing. I feel like if you have a artistic kind of career.
I wonder, I don't know if I've seen anybody from the comic world to use AI for quicker ways of dealing with comic paneling creations and stuff, like your ideas to burst into. I would wonder if that comes into fruition, because
the Living the Line guys did a comic that was all AI generated.
Did they? Okay.
What the heck was it called? Shit, Evolution of Man or something like that, or I don't remember what it was called, but they did that very purposefully. They did it very purposefully. They were trying to make, I haven't read it. I hear it's more a statement on like technology and AI and humans interaction with it and stuff, but theirs was the first. Everybody likes being the first, but theirs apparently was the first completely AI generated comic. And I'm curious to see what it's about. Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, it will be technology. I mean, we're gonna have to leap forward no matter whatever happens.
Yeah, totally.
And with that new stuff, you're probably gonna have something what we as humans create afterwards. So
right.
In that sense, you can also see the positives of that as well. But, okay.
Cool.
So yeah.
Absolutely, I agree. But the thing is, when you're dealing with corporations, it unfortunately is reduced to efficiency because they want to get the most bang out of their buck, though. But I don't disagree with you. And I think there's like with a lot of other things that are supposedly dead, vinyl is dead, cassettes are dead, etc. is dead. All these things are dead. There's always people that are going to bring it back because they love the medium itself, right? So there's always going to be pockets of that stuff. And it's whenever you're dealing with popular culture, no matter what it is, whatever you're talking about, popular culture is fickle, man. Like people won't change their minds about shit on a fucking dime. So, but you're right. Yes, it shouldn't be reduced to efficiency, but corporations being what they are, that's the language they speak. not in my house analog all day. Well, there you go. Perfect. That's good. You and me both. I'm gonna go get myself my reel-to-reel tape machine and get that going. Like that'll be going way back. Yeah. So you want to start us off while I go get my charger for the phone?
Oh yeah, go on. Oh well, the thing. Okay, let me talk something then about that.
Yeah,
I have
sure.
to show. Where is it? Okay. Okay. Cool. Right.
I'll be right back.
All right. So finally, no more Armageddon war. So this entails the new storyline, beginning of the new storyline for Turtles. So 140 going strong. I started reading from issue 30, so it's quite actually entertaining. So since the event, I found it quite difficult to understand really what's happened, because the event happened in another book, even though this was kind of part of it. But for the love of the Turtles, I enjoy comics with Turtles, and this run I wanted to continue happening more, so I don't have to pick up every other offshoots of the Turtles, even though there's so many. But so far we have, apparently what happened, which is interesting, the Turtles were kind of fenced off from New York City, and now because of this event they open, and the doors are open and everybody embracing mutants to a point, of course, and Turtles don't understand their place anymore, because while they were locked away, the Turtles were kind of like sheriffs of the town. They were keeping an eye and order, and now kind of they feel like they were taken out of jobs for some. As you know, all the brothers not always agree to each other, and Raphael is also finding it to brood a little bit more than usually because of that. So yeah, now they're part of New York. They don't have to hide anymore. They can walk inside the streets, and because there's such a mixture of both humans and mutants alike. But there's things in the background happening which Turtles don't know if they want to kind of investigate, or because they feel like maybe we should start, get a job, which is quite an interesting take to do if they're going to continue with this. But there's this menace going around, which I'm not aware who he is. There's also Alopex, who has had quite a rough time with Turtles. And the Turtles kind of, she thinks that they left her behind because they kind of didn't agree with her ways of dealing with situations. So now she kind of have this group of kids with her becoming kind of like superhero / I don't know exactly what they will become. So that will be interesting, that this book will go into the realm where Turtles don't have to hide anymore. I don't know how long will that take, especially that if you guys at all follow Turtles, you know that the future has kind of been told in Ronin stories, last Ronin stories, which is continuously as well, which I decided not to pick up in singles because it's kind of overpriced, and I want to start getting those offshoots and maybe collected editions rather than in single format. This kind of like single format Turtles original run will be always in single format for me, because I need that kind of part. But every other offshoot storyline, I think I could just continue being with maybe having collected ones. So anyway, so just because of that, those stories, like there's some future takes where the brother seems to be without Splinter, kind of really becoming kind of like can't gel together anymore, and they're trying to do their own thing. And to this what surprising thing, but a bit of a spoiler alert, Raphael is going to be in jail because he was in the wrong moment, the right time. So when I'm talking about humans and mutants putting themselves in together, so as you can see in this one. Yeah, it's they, like if you last Ronin book I was the first one I was collecting them in singles. They were like what, 7, was it $7 a pop, and then you have the collected one, so like quarter price of the whatever I spent it for 5 issues. So it's really, I mean, I know it's a nicer format, it's a thicker issues than normal. I understand that completely, but sometimes, you know, like you have to kind of realize, because in hardcover I saw the hardcover editions of that, and that was beautifully done. And IDW don't shy away from that hardcover, so hopefully I'll pick up that story, because I think that story is called what is it, like something like Ronin? I don't know. We don't even have an ad in here, which I'm surprised by. Take time or something like that. There's this annual as well, which I should have picked it up. Apparently, it's actually really good read. So maybe I ask for my comic book to see if he still has it, because annuals I don't tend to pick up. I don't know why. But yeah, they do this, the hardcovers, Last Ronins. This is just for covers.
Yeah, right.
I don't know why. 200-page full color hardcover comprehensive showcase of every cover. I don't know if people interested.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if people interested in that. So, by the way, I'm glad it's coming back into without being an event, but that mixture of them being not needing to hide anymore. I'm having a bit of mixed feelings, because I don't know where they will take that, because they don't really explain here with the killings, or that the villain or future villain will be. It's interesting, because if it's that a little bit more detective side of the storylines, I'm always into it. You know, I like my detectives, so if that's gonna come in fruition, I'm all for it, because as I say, I will continuously. It's my go-to book. I mean, I can drop a lot of books, but this that's not gonna weigh in my comic book guy is actually quite laughing all the time. So the turtles. So it's not just the only thing. I was waiting for that the last issue of that audio adventures, and he's saying that you can't see it. That's coming. Not coming out.
Delayed. It should have been out months ago. It feels like it pisses me off when that stuff happens. I mean, one more issue to go. Like, can't you?
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah. Oh, hey, there go Paulo.
Hold on, everybody. Everybody pause. Paulo's here. Hello, Paulo. Yeah. Just a quick shout out to Paulo. If you go back to my last video where we were talking about unionizing and comics and that sort of thing, Paulo had a few excellent comments that he included there about the state of European comics that are well worth going, and he links up an article there as well too. So thank you, Paulo, for doing that in that stream in the comments.
Cool. Oops.
ABC is asking if anyone read that TMNT book based on the cartoon.
I have read a couple of issues. I dropped it. Didn't because it was good, but I committed to some other books. They kind of going technology, like they get into AI, like they were using these goggles where they were jumping into computer game, and I'm not sure it was maybe fully entertaining. I love the art, and that's the only thing was really driving me. Oh, like I should just continue to, because it's just like animation. But I don't know, the story wasn't like, I'm blowing my socks off, which, you know, sometimes I do want turtle books to be doing that for me. So
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. I got 4 and 5, I guess, of the TMNT Usagi Yojimbo. I haven't read any of them yet because I don't have issue 1 and 2. I've got to find those. I think it's 4. I think I have 3, 4, and 5 now anyway. But yeah, so you're reading that.
That's my next what I was reading on Alter. I have the gripes with that, because so issue 2 was destroyed in America on the lorry. You remember I said to you they had an accident, so I thought it was in here, but apparently it wasn't in my comic book site. Is America. So while we were drawing to the port, the truck got in an accident where everything got burned, apparently.
Right.
And now they kind of like not telling you when they should, because it's only for, it seems to be overseas. I don't know how many issues of number 2 you have in where you are, for example, across the pond, but it seems to be all the shops in UK. Let's say, because I'm here, I know more. It's like they are more. You can't buy it, issue number 2 of that.
Okay.
And that really drove me like, oh, but I want it. But what kind of? And I was starting to think, should I not even ask my comic book guy just to stop it? But I was like, oh nah, but it's Usagi, and I haven't had Usagi for a while. So, and I read those issues, and I really like it.
Yeah. I'm surprised they wouldn't automatically just go and do a reprint of it. You know,
they are doing it, but they apparently have they've been giving him my comic book a runaround about when we're gonna receive it, because he said it's coming, but
Okay.
and then we have some other shops who has this, the limited edition issue number twos, which they charge £25 a pop. It's like,
Yeah,
no,
of course. Yeah.
I'm not gonna be silly and buying 25 pop issue just because I'm missing in my thing. So.
Mm-hmm. But you'll have a collector's item, though, Rasa. It'll be a collector's item.
It's never gonna be value of £25 afterward.
Yeah,
I don't think, especially issue 2.
Yeah,
So,
that's right. Yeah.
Maybe in 100 years when I'm gonna be past. So,
Yeah, right.
There was an accident and the truck was, burned and this issue was missing, and it's like a collector's edition where nobody has it because there's such a little printing.
Yes. I know that channel, AFPC. It's really great. I follow them on social media as well too. The More Perfect Union. Really good stuff on there.
Okay.
I guess I'll eventually get it. I don't know. I'm at this point. I'm going to keep getting the rest of the issues because I put them on a pull list, but I may just end up getting it collected because I don't think I'm going to be able to find issue 1. And now with this, obviously the issue 2 Rose, I don't know if I'll be able to find that for a reasonable
Do you want
price.
me to? I can ask my comic book guy if he has it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't stop you. I wouldn't say no to that. I still haven't sent you your Canon magazine, by the way. I still have it. I haven't put it in the post yet.
Oh, you've been waiting for something.
No, sorry. I'll put it in the mail this week. Yeah, get it out to you.
Since you told me, it's like, it's not coming. Oh, the Canadian post is bitches.
Yeah.
But now it's you. I can blame you now.
It's still sitting. It's still sitting on my dining room table. I'll get it out to you this week, though.
Well, it would be nice if you're willing. I mean, you said
it
first.
For sure. Oh yeah, for sure. I asked Colin for one specifically so I could send it to you.
Oh, nice.
Cool. So speaking of art, why don't we talk about this one first?
Mm-hmm.
Andy and the Alien, created by Philip Phillipson and Brian Phillipson, art by the one and only Alex Nino.
Wow.
I never heard of this. I don't know the story with Bliss on Tap.
What the hell is that?
It feels like it's a print on demand thing, but I don't know. It feels like this is too early for that because I think this is 2011 is when this came out. Apparently they've been around since 2004. So there's their information there. GodTheDyslexic.com, BlissOnTapPublishing.com, Blogspot.com. So it's breakdowns by Philip Phillipson, words by Brian, pencils and inks by Alex Nino, and then coloring is taken on by a couple of different people there. So he doesn't do the coloring. I follow Nino on social media. I love watching his videos where he's drawing and painting and whatever else he's doing. I love sitting and watching those. It's incredible stuff. There is so much of that energy. The first half of this book is kind of filled with that kind of Nino energy when it comes to the character design. So this book is the story itself is shit. Let's just be honest. But we're not here for the story. It's for these beautiful pages by Alex Nino. And he's got a lot of what I love about his style is there's this real here's a great example of it. There's this different kind of energy to it. The use of kind of the blacks in the shading on the clothing, the kind of lines that make up the fabrics, that make up the characters. This is a stunning book to look at, even though the coloring isn't his for most of the book, actually. In the end, I feel like the coloring drops off a little bit. And I think the last kind of half of the book, or the last third of the book anyway, is where it's taken over by a different colorist. I was unaware of this one as well too, AFPC. It was one that I found in the bins and just saw his name on it and went for it. But this is another good example of what I love about Nino. So the premise in this one is that the Americas are surrounded because an alien had crashed in the Americas. They protected the indigenous peoples from the rest of the world. Jump ahead to World War II. The Nazis have not been defeated. They're kind of taking over the planet. Nobody has been able to step foot in the United States, in the Americas, because of this shield. As soon as they step foot on the beach, they instantly die. So their kind of society has been protected from the goings on of the rest of the world. And of course, it's Nazis, and there's Nazis all over the place, and Nazis this, and God bless America by the end of it, that makes you want to fucking puke. But that's just me. But the art itself is gorgeous. The way he kind of adorns these characters with their clothes and all of this stuff, I think is really beautiful. There's some nice kind of textures on the coloring here as well too. Almost looks like pencil crayon, and that really starts to make an appearance near the end here. Let's find a good example of it, like stuff in here. You can really see that texture in the coloring here, like the shading under his neck, for example. Hopefully that's showing up okay. But it's beautiful stuff. It's a nice thick book as well too. Really nice to flip through and look at his art, but don't pay too much attention to the story. There's really not much there. But it's Nino kind of at his, maybe not prime, but still having the chops to put together a beautiful story here. It's another nice 2-page spread. So I don't know the story of this. It's one of those things of, digging through those bins. You never know what you're going to see, and figured I'd give it a shot since it was so damn cheap. But yeah, some beautiful textures on the coloring here. They do a really nice job. I'll give him that. Like, I think with his art, you kind of lose it if you go with something too crisp. You need something that's going to feel a little more hand colored to deal with, like, his, to my eyes, apparently hand drawn characters and figures, right? As usual, I mean, my caveat is I can't tell with digital sometimes. So for all I know, there is some digital in here as well too, but I couldn't tell you. My eye isn't trained like that, but to me, it all looks done by hand. So beautiful stuff.
Yeah, it does look like that.
Yeah, it does for sure. I remember hearing about God the Dyslexic Dog. Yeah, I never thought about reading it though. And I was reading about a dozen webcomics at the time. There are just too many. Yeah, absolutely. There was a time there where there was a million of those things popping up. I think I probably have that God the Dyslexic Dog somewhere, but I just don't remember which company put it out. Flights of the Navigator cameo. Okay, I missed that in there. So yeah, it was good to flip through. It took me a few sittings to kind of get through the whole thing, because the story was really just excruciating to read through. And now when I see stuff with Nazis, I always think of Earl Grey and kind of what he'd said when he was reading Monsters. There's also a Sundance, so we get one of the whiteys gets to live on the island, and he kind of becomes one of the tribe, and he does this Sundance as kind of his initiation into the group there. Really beautiful done as well too. I always think of Earl Grey and just kind of his kind of, from a German perspective, just getting bored with the Nazis always being the go-to villain, so I kind of end up thinking that often when I read a story that has oh, hello, here he is right there, Earl Grey is present. Yeah, so you were in my mind when I was reading this. I called you. You're just in time. I projected out your name and you showed up.
Yeah.
Like,
how did you hear about this book anyway, or how did you get hold of it?
Just flipping through bins, like I often do, flipping through, and saw it, and I recognized his art on the cover, and seeing his name in big type at the bottom, it was just a no-brainer. Just pulled it out and put it on the stack. So yeah,
interesting. Yeah, they're really good. I mean, if you're a fan of Alex Nino, it's definitely one thing to. But it's a bit of a storyline, though. Like that's what doesn't grab you forward. Like that's why maybe nobody's heard of it, and it's kind of sad.
Yeah. I've never heard of these creators either, the Phillipson brothers, I imagine. I've never heard of them. I've never heard of this Bliss on Tap. I've never heard of any of this stuff. So, yeah, there's the back cover.
They probably got lost in translation, with all the books around,
More than likely, yeah.
That's very difficult because if you don't get that, first excitement from everybody else. So, yeah. Would be that. Yeah, it's nice for you to find stuff. I miss going looking for comics. Oh,
so much fun.
Yeah, you're just like, I want to, but
yeah,
I don't shy away from London as far as I am. because of the prices and all that stuff.
Yeah, no, totally.
Absolutely excruciating to even think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I haven't read that much, to be honest.
Okay.
I have
Yeah.
a couple more to speak,
Sure.
because as I say, like I don't push myself anymore to overly, go for my whatever. And one thing I read, which is surprising, the Marvel,
Mhm.
and I did it digital because you can't go. I don't do Marvel and print. I did it because I got Marvel thingy, whatever that.
Unlimited or whatever.
Yeah, because it was offer for like a week.
Okay.
And stuff. So now it's about to actually. I was like, oh yeah, I have something like I've read I want to share, but I was like, oh my god, is this app gonna work for me before we chat? Because because when you lose your thingy, you can't read whatever you have in an app. Basically, everything gets cancelled.
Oh, when
But
you lose your subscription, you lose the books.
yeah,
Ah, I see. I
of
see.
course, so this
I,
is
I
how.
actually didn't know. Yeah, no, I actually didn't know. I just assumed like if you were paying for it, you sort of have the books that you read like in a digital format. I mean, obviously you wouldn't have the entire catalog at your
No, because
fingertips anymore, but
it's like Netflix
uh-huh.
of comics. So you
Yeah,
whatever while you have a subscription, it's available for you. When you don't, it goes.
I see.
But
I
anyway,
see.
but because they keep on coming up with issue number ones, and the first one, which I basically I'm talking about this. So they just recently come out with this issue.
Oh,
Sorry
nice. Yeah.
about. So it's an Incredible Hulk issue 1, and this is by Philip Kennedy Johnson, which I'm not sure. It's a very familiar name. I kind of think of Nick Klein and Matthew Wilson on colors. And I like Nick Klein's art. I know that much. I don't know about the Philip Kennedy. I think somebody would say to me, "Oh, he wrote in this and this and that," but I don't really. I'm not aware. But it's issue 1, so and this is the only time probably in the while where I thought I want a hard copy, but I didn't. Because after reading this, I really kind of like was in the moment, maybe in the right time. But they're going back to the horror route for the Hulk. And I was interested to see. Nick Klein is the artist, by the way. And yeah, and it's the panels are really working well on the digital format. The story so far is intriguing. Nothing really much told, but as a kind of like a horror / flick, it's really entertaining because you have these beasts appearing and then taking over human beings, and of course Hulk is in there, to become who he is, and of course he's still struggling. So this is our what's his name? Who's Hulk? Human? Oh my god, I'm so bad again. Me and doing live chat. Names disappear. Oh my god. What's Hulk's name? Terrence. The human's name. Are you there? Is he leaving me behind? You went somewhere.
No, I'm here. Sorry, I was typing. Bruce Banner. Bruce Banner.
Oh, there you go. So Brucey is in Dinah, like always, chatting up some girl, and then actually he wasn't talking to the girl, but he was talking to the girl. And yeah, and it has these scenes like that, which is really beautiful to see. It's very well executed, I think, for modern comic books. I really like those eyes and running. I can't tell you much of a storyline because I've read it in a while. For saying is a superhero comic, like. But what really I enjoyed most of it is the panels of artwork and story so far is intriguing because there's some characters introducing like this chick who's going to be involved, Charlene, I think is her name, and yeah, and she's running away from somebody because I'm not following Hulks at all in the Marvel universe. I'm about to spill something. But I think this is really well executed issue 1. Just that's what I wanted to share.
Nice on that page too. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, look at this one. This one's
really nice.
bloody fantastic. So this creature apparently can hop in and out of people's bodies, like you see in the Leftovers when he comes in. So and it's like this goat takes over. And yeah, so it's really good. And the Hulk, when Hulk comes to be Hulk, is that monstrosity of Hulk. with a tiny head, but him is like the way he turns into Hulk is as gruesome as it gets. So anyway, so yeah, really cool, entertaining. I don't know how far it's gonna go. Issue 1 sometimes really good, but like Al Ewing run of Incredible Hulk, everybody was screaming about, and I
Mhm.
think because it was horror element to him, to that series as well, maybe that's what they were writing back to, going back to horror, because kind of lends itself because of the beastish level of Hulk you can be and the brutality of him, and then he's always kind of like having a the fighting himself to become Hulk, or Hulk takes over and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a lot of elements. I'm not well aware, but also they show this woman's want to take over all the creatures of the nature. So even Man-Thing appeared. So in one
Cool.
panel. So anyway, I'm just saying it's really for an issue 1 of Hulk. It was extremely entertaining. So I don't know if you're gonna succeed in that. Creating maybe another exciting Hulk series. But after, as I say, that time when I was reading it, I was really kind of actually not bad Marvel thing for issue 1. So it was thoroughly entertaining. So I was just watching.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. Oh, this is the Eddie Vedder Hulk.
Yeah. So probably So it's I don't know. I really liked I picked up first 6 issues of Al Ewing's run. I remember, and I really enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm.
But then I kind of like lost because it's Marvel.
Was that what was that one? What was that series called? Was that the latest one?
Yeah, it was called Incredible Hulk.
Okay.
So it was another one, but Al Ewing took that. He took the Hulk into horror element, and everybody was like raving about it. It was until somebody, I think it wasn't Al Ewing or somebody. No, the artist. I forgot his name. You're in trouble because
Yeah, wasn't that the Indestructible Hulk? Isn't that what that one series was called? I thought that was a different name.
Oh,
I
maybe.
think I know because there was some controversy with that artist.
Yeah, exactly. It was
putting
the art
swastikas in the artwork or some bullshit, whatever.
Yeah, he was having an opinion and was putting some things in there.
Immortal
Hulk.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, there you go. Well, as I say, it's still a Hulk story anyway. So
yeah.
Immortal, Incredible, whatever. It's it's still Hulk. So yeah, so for issue number 1, honestly, I was impressed because of execution wise, it was entertaining, and Nick Klein is good artist. He has, but Matthew Lee Wilson in colors, it seems to be his like household name now in Marvel, or at least I think it is, because as a colorist, he's really good. Very like consistent panels, right choice of shadowing, and it doesn't look off kind of thing. Like they usually, it seems to be sometimes they put number 1 issue really thought that out, and then they change the artist, and it becomes a blur.
Yeah, that's the one there, Andrew. That's exactly it. There was something supposedly in a background on a window or something. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think you're correct.
Yeah, and nobody remembers the name of that.
Yeah, and ultimately, probably nobody remembers what it was. You know what I mean? It's just in the moment it became this big thing. And
I remember that issue. Those issues were going for a pretty penny.
They were, hey?
Yeah, they were like £10 a pop, like an issue. That was quite a lot. I mean, for more than Marvel comic book, it's quite a significant amount.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure I'm seeing $1 here, so.
Well, of course, probably now you are, but in that time moment, yeah, it was kind of hyping up to be something. Yeah, Joe Bennett, yeah, I think so. Yes, it is. Some very similar. Yeah, I think so. It is. So yeah, it was interesting. So I always I see something like that, like. I always strive with Marvel's number 1s. I never, most of the time I go like, oh, okay, whatever, kind of. But this one, it was maybe just because the way, you have like the same Bruce Banner, who is like really struggles with his own brain, and Hulk wants to just absolutely pop out of his shell, literally, and then the way the horror elements and the fight scenes, and then those goat kind of like creatures, which they in the chest they have this like teeth, like almost like alien kind of type of
right,
kind of interesting. But I don't know where they will take the story. That's the thing. As I say, Marvel usually gets the number 1 issue great, but if they change the artist like right after one issue or some like couple of issues. It's just like shifts the comic book, because the thing is with comic book for me and art, I like consistency. Reason being because with artists you can shift the storytelling as well, and
Hmm.
the story you're reading from previous artists, you're already getting that wave of that artist, how
Yeah.
he's going to portray the storyline. The different artist comes into fruition, and you're like, oh, should I like? It feels like you have to start from the beginning to understand where the writer wants to go with the character. But
Hmm.
just this is how I feel sometimes, you know.
Yeah, they have different storytelling techniques, and they interpret things differently. And because I
Yeah.
doubt that a lot of artists or writers these days rather are like laying out panel by panel like an Alan Moore. There's probably a lot more creativity given to the artist. Maybe I'm talking about out of my ass, but it feels like if you're not one of those A-level writers, you're probably not going to those details as panel one has to show this, panel two is this, 5 panels on this page, 7 on the next, whatever. So I
No,
have a
there is.
feeling that makes a huge storytelling difference for
Yeah, there
sure.
is a lot of art. The writers who is controlling, like
Right.
the whole almost way throughout the story, creating like you when you have those extras. There's
Hmm.
some of them who's been working, like Stan Lee would be like, oh, I don't have story, just you draw and then I'll tell the story afterwards.
Hmm.
He is probably unique in that sense because I don't think
Right.
anybody's doing the same thing anymore. But then writers, some of the writers like you say, Al Moore, and I don't think Rick Remender is as, but I think his layouts are quite involved.
I'm sure
Like
Hickman Hickman is really involved too. I'm
yeah,
I'm assuming, right?
yeah, Hickman, or probably because he's like
Yeah.
stickler for detail, isn't he?
It's very visual. Yeah, exactly.
Because he likes really like if I was telling you a story, you make sure you portray that because he's trying to get to elements where you kind of like if you miss it, we're gonna miss it completely, and you're gonna get really lost because
Hmm.
some of the points like that frustrating series you've never finished, the Monday Murders, something blue or
Oh
something
yeah,
dark.
Black Monday Murders. Yeah,
Yeah, black. I really wanted to know what's happening in there, and suddenly it just disappeared out of nothing because he
there
went
was one I
to
was reading called, I think it was Killing and the Dying. I think that one never
yeah,
finished. That was brilliant. That was really good.
yeah,
That one never finished. I don't think.
no. And
Yeah.
then he went into Marvel and then only finished Marvel stuff. So I guess
Hmm.
that's where the money goes. But
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
anyway,
Cool.
uh-huh.
Um, so I thought I was up to date on this series, but it turns out I'm not.
Which series?
Let's see. It's the new volume of Orochi from
Oh,
Kazuo Umez. This is book number 4. So I've missed book number 3 somehow. I don't know how, but I have to rectify that. But this is great. So this is some of his earlier work. Umez from Drifting Classroom, Cat
oh,
Eye
there you go.
Foot. What else? My Name is Shingo. Left hand of God, right hand of the devil, etc., etc. He's a huge he started drawing professionally in the 50s and is considered the most influential horror manga artist ever. His many horror and sci-fi works, they've also done him into movies and toys and all sorts of pop culture things, right? So this one is broken up into 2 stories, a shorter one that's called Eyes, and then a longer one that's called Blood.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. So the first, I would, hey, yes. So you say yes. Sometimes it's hard to know if AFPC is being sarcastic or not in type. I have a feeling that was sarcasm. So I loved the first volume of this. Second volume fell off a little bit. This one has some of that same issues I think that I was feeling with that second volume, where it was more talked about and not shown, as opposed to show and don't say. There's a lot of like dialogue that's really unnecessary. That said, though, the stories are pretty engaging. They all have this kind of very odd atmosphere. And there was a certain point. So this first story is about this blind girl who, quote unquote, witnesses a murder as this guy runs into her house. She's waiting for her dad to come home. He runs into the house and says, "Protect me. Don't let anybody else in." This guy ends up following him in and stabbing him in her house and
Uh-huh.
taking off because he realizes she's blind. He hasn't said anything, so
Mm-hmm.
he's not worried about being fingered, I guess. But then her father comes home and he gets accused of the murder and sent away. So now she's kind of left to deal with her things herself. And the story just kind of evolves from there. Our Orochi character is the usual kind of stalker. She's always watching things from the sidelines and kind of our host. In this first story, she doesn't make much of an appearance, though. There's some really nice storytelling that happens near the end, though. And I'm surprised he didn't use it too much. Well, I'm surprised, and then as soon as I say that, I guess it makes sense when he did utilize the technique. I'll flip to it. There's a passage here where she's trying to figure out what the hell is going on in her house, and I thought the couple of pages illustrated it incredibly well. So it starts down here where she's boarding up all the windows and doors as she's left one day. This guy's come back in because he's realized that he dropped his identification in her house. So he's going to come back and he's going to look for it. So he's already been in the house once. So when she gets home and realizes through stepping all over everything that her place has been trashed, she scrambles to board up and nail closed all the doors and windows. So he does this for a page where there's just blackness and you see her kind of doing the action and she's kind of in a panicked state. And I thought it was a really nice way to tell the story. And you can see when we kind of get to see what she's doing, she's got blood on her hands because she's hit herself with a hammer and things like that in kind of her panicked state. Really nice. And just not a bad little tale. It ends up, AFPC, you'd like this one. It ends up, there's this corporation, there's this factory in town that is poisoning the water, and everything is kind of linked to that factory, this whole mystery, which isn't much of a mystery, to be fair. It's more kind of like it's more of a suspenseful kind of, like almost like a Hitchcockian type of story. So it wasn't too bad. Where things picked up for me, though, was for this second story called Blood. And right off the bat, he does some incredible things. So we go from a story that's filled with a lot of small panels to quite a few pages here off the top where we get these almost like full page and 2 panels per page. And he also does this mixing of mediums and some he also does some collaging as well too, which I'll show you on the next page. This is this young girl. There's 2 main characters. They're sisters, and she's kind of reliving the past of the time, that the fond memories that she has of her sister. So he'll do things like this where he's using these screen tones to create this unusual effect for her memories. And every single page, there's something a little bit different that he's doing that surround the memories, like her kind of, this was a really good time in her life that she's remembering. And even this I thought was a nice touch. I don't know if this is on purpose or if this was accidental, but it's almost like fading into a memory here, which I thought was really, really nice page and really well done if it was purposeful. I imagine it was, but what do I know? So it starts off beautifully, and I love like getting from those small panels to let things kind of stretch out a little bit. And obviously in this one, this cupcake was a very important memory for her because it's just on its own in the story. And then the story kind of, as they usually do, it turns a little dark. This child starts getting abused by her parents because she's not as good as her older sister. And she's constantly being reminded of that. Like, why can't you be as smart as your sister? Why can't you do this like your sister? Why can't you do that like your sister? So it really starts to skew her view of the world and kind of her place in it. And she starts building up this resentment. Really, really good. And then so Orochi makes an appearance eventually. We get some art that gets ripped up, and then we get this page here of a beautiful room with the curtains. And then the next page, we have Orochi behind the curtains there, kind of making her appearance into the story. And she's now in the house and kind of a part of it. Nobody can see her. She's sort of like I say, our spirit kind of narrator that's taking us through these stories. This one, though, she ends up playing a really big part of it. I won't spoil too much of it, but she ends up playing a really big part of it. She apparently has to sleep every 100 years. She's been around for hundreds of years, but every 100 years she has to sleep for a long period of time, like at least, I don't know, they don't specify time, like 10 to 20 years is what I get the sense of. So she can kind of regenerate and then be alive and awake for another 100 years. but I mean, look at these pages are just gorgeous.
Mm.
So the story had some pretty grim elements in it. It's not that it's violence or anything. It's more like psychologically
Mhm.
tough to read, you know, at times, but still pretty damn good. And I think I'm at the point with this stuff where, again, it's one of those books that's not necessarily about the story itself. It's about the storytelling, and with pages
Yeah.
like this, it's beautiful. It's really beautiful, black and white, and it has that kind of classic manga style with the big round faces and the big eyes and things.
Mhm.
Um, excellent stuff though. And then at the end, we get a nice twist at the end as well too, which is always great. But
Mhm.
I love stuff like this, just really focusing on one moment in her memory, right? So really nice way to tell the story. What year was this originally put out? I don't know if it has the date. It doesn't. So this is just March 2023. It says 2006 on this one, so I thought it was actually earlier than that. But
Mhm.
yeah, it looks like that's the original Japanese edition published by Shoga Kukan, English translation. Yeah, so I guess it appeared in a magazine like a lot of this stuff does. But really nice. I'm gonna have to look for number 3. It's a damn good series. Much prefer Umes to Ito. Yeah, Junji Ito is a different kind of horror for sure. And then Cat-Eyed Boy is one that I'd like to read for sure. I've seen stills of that. I've seen stuff of that online, but I'll have to do a better dig for it. So yeah, book 4 from Viz, which is nice. I'm glad they're keeping going on these. I'll try to find number 3. And the beauty about Viz is they're also carried in bookstores here, so they're pretty easy to find. You don't
Mhm.
have to do too much digging. They're in kind of our mainstream bookstores where they have Viz stuff, so shouldn't be too
That's
hard
cool.
to find it.
But it's funny how the different styles of progression as well in comic
Mhm.
books and now like in those mangas, and you can actually see the difference because like he was comparing to Umesu to Ito, and Ito has this like more, what would you say, more this time of era of art style when it comes
Right.
to manga, and you see Umes is like really classical, like that. But that just like the manga like where I seen as well on the screen, the art style and the old school ones is just like, oh yeah, no, it's like like from seasons creator, like the person who has been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
But
And I want to say the same thing there, AFPC 70s, but it doesn't say that date in there. I'm feeling that they're just referring to like maybe the first English translation, I'm guessing, because I was sure that it was much earlier than that as well. So that's good that I'm not the only one that thinks that. And Ito is definitely more graphic and horrific and
yeah.
gore, I guess, where this is definitely more suspense. There's more of a ghost story type of telling in this
Mm.
series, mixed with kind of, like I said, those Hitchcock type of suspense moments, you know.
Yeah, and I like those panels you were talking about, those
Yeah,
busy graphic
such
scenes
beautiful
of,
art.
yeah, even though it's
Yeah,
in black and white, it's still like so beautiful to look at.
yeah,
So
totally.
how come you realize it's been out? Oh, because you have that list you said. So in the publishing
I went
house.
to the bookstore. It's my wife's birthday coming up soon, and we
Uh-huh.
went to the bookstore, me and my daughter, to look for a couple of books for her. And as usual, I can't help but go and look in the graphic novel and comic section and saw it on the shelf. I didn't know that book 4 had come out, let alone that
Mhm.
I'd missed book 3. I was sure that I had the first 3 downstairs, but it turns out I was wrong about that. So I'll have to go back and grab the other one.
So does it mean that there's more in manga reproduced for like English reading public, or?
There's a ton, and our bookstore has
Mhm.
so much. Like the amount of manga that they carry at this Chapters Indigo here up the street from us
Mhm.
is unbelievable.
Oh, wow.
It's the same amount, if not more, than kind of like, it's definitely more than the Marvel and DC in that bookstore. Marvel and DC is kind of one shelf. The manga is easily 1, 2, 3 shelves worth, probably maybe 4, but
Mhm.
it's a hell of a lot that they carry. And you know, maybe the amount of different titles is probably the same as Marvel DC, because a lot of the manga stuff obviously is like 20 different books in the series or whatever,
Yeah.
and it's pretty good at kind of keeping that stuff stocked.
Mhm.
because I'm assuming because they sell a lot more of it than the other kind of comics and graphic novels.
Mm.
But it's incredible the amount that's available in bookstores now for manga.
Because
Yeah.
I remember I went to just like the sort of local, that high street bookshop, like the more, not you wouldn't find the comic books that much, but they do carry, like you say. So,
Mhm.
and it's like you say, manga and more shelves, definitely. So they have quite a few. I'm surprised, because they have like 5 shelves for Marvel and DC and Independent,
Uh-huh.
and then almost more than half of that space is taken over by manga.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like almost like you see that like most room is the manga, and then you just go turn the corner, and then you see your graphic novels, like that.
Right.
So it's like entertaining, and it seems to be that it's like I don't know, are they the big two embracing more that style? Because it seems to be DC is completely going to that route, as far as I've seen the pictures of what gonna come out, or what they will come out with, because it seems to be they dwelling into that kind of art style.
Right.
Like Superman is drawn like in manga style, and I was like, oh, that's interesting, because like I know they usually have done like specials, but now they seems to be they kind of properly embracing it, or they trying to go with the trend. I presume that trend wise is what they're trying to achieve.
I think it's probably partially that, but I also feel like it's probably the generation of artists, like there's just artists that are more influenced coming to age now, that have just been more influenced by manga than maybe North American comics, like that influence on them has started to shift dramatically, I'm guessing. But yeah, and they're probably going for it as well too, because they see that it sells, right? So that would make sense to me for sure.
Yeah, and it's also good, because we were saying how many little you have translated in English from foreign, especially in like UK, or let's say American, Canada, because we tend to not to have, even in here in UK, even though we're so close to Europe, we don't get as many English translated books from European stuff. I mean, definitely better what used to be.
Yeah.
Not as great and variety as what you see in Europe. If you can read a different, like Germany, I mean, come on, the first example, you watch your Earl Grey videos, and you realize how much they have. And
right.
You just get frustrated. I tend to, because I like this artist. I want it to be translated. I want to read. Come on.
Right.
And he's like, oh, sorry, it's not in English translation yet. I was like, why are you showing off?
Yeah, right. I mean, even like 20 years ago when we lived in Ontario, I remember just getting into anime and manga and stuff, like the places to go and get that stuff. I had to go to a convention in Toronto, like a comic and sci-fi convention, to even get like anime DVDs, soundtracks, and manga, and it cost a goddamn fortune, because it just, you couldn't find it anywhere. And that's just, I mean, I say just 20 years ago, but because I remember going to an anime festival in Kitchener-Waterloo, they were doing these monthly screenings where they were showing kind of series like Cowboy Bebop and Berserk and things like that, right? Where they were screening these things, and it was impossible to find that stuff anywhere. And now it's so easy. Like I said, the mainstream bookstore, you can find this stuff by the boatloads, right? So Paul is saying even in France, you have bookstores where manga takes up more than 50%. It's amazing.
Yeah, and they do like their comic books. I mean, the industry is much stronger, I would presume, because of the amount of creators you have and the respect they gain by doing what they're doing in France and stuff like that. So, very well. I mean, I think it's great to have variety. I don't. Sometimes I get a bit like I don't understand where to go and what to read. I mean, you guys you showed the Ume's the class one, Drifting Classroom. I think the last time.
Drifting Classroom. Dr. Monkeybot was reading that when we were chatting with him. He was deep into that series.
Yeah, and I was thinking that's kind of but then you look how many volumes you have to get into. Like this new Berserk series, which I absolutely loved, the Berserk in anime style. Don't forget, I wasn't reading the story. But then how many volumes? I'm like 15 now volumes in the hardcover.
So yeah, those big thick hardcovers. There's probably at least a dozen of them, right? Yeah, my son is reading those.
Yeah, and then they look fantastic, and it's great to see that. I mean, they're going strong. Seems to be apparently, they had a problem because of something of what they. I don't remember what happened.
The creator died, so the creator's dead now. Yeah. So I don't know if somebody's taken it over or what's happening with it. I believe so, but my son has been reading it, and he's saying like the story is unreal, like just the way that the twists and turns that it takes. He's really digging it.
Yeah.
AFPC is saying he had to buy stuff out of the trunk of a car, and then the manga section in local Barnes and Noble dwarfs both the graphic novel and the children's book section. That's madness. The children's book section at our bookstore is enormous, so that's mind blowing. Andrew's saying the same thing. Mine takes a few bookshelves, both sides. Yeah.
Especially those, for me, is those high street bookstores. Like the ones more mainstream bookstores, not your off the, go into this dark alley and you see this bookshop and you're not sure if you're gonna enter it or. Or do you have your husband next to it like a security guard, because you never know when you open a door. First, what you're gonna smell, or are you gonna survive afterwards?
Yeah.
So if you hear me screaming, please come take me away from this.
Come and save me.
I honestly have been in a couple of shops like that, and I can tell you truthfully, I was really worried.
Yeah.
Because it felt way too dark first. Before you enter, I mean, the alley, those kind of like shops they tend to have in this like used to be like shopping, like smaller shopping malls. So we are quite tiny, and especially when they're not working fully anymore because of those biggest shopping malls opening around you, everywhere. So you go in those shops and you're like, not sure if I want to. I mean, I really want to go to see what they have, but do I? Second guess yourself before you enter.
Yeah, right.
Because it's just it feels stingy. And there's one of the shops there is around in my area where he sells comic books, but he overprices them, and they are in piles of, and they look like like dirty magazines. Shop, you go enter it, and you like show your ID first before you go in, because everything is in absolute chaos, and he overcharged for everything. Because like he there was one, I remember I was looking for Sandman. There you go. Particularly I was looking for Sandman single issues, and he had buttload. But then most of them had some issues with the covers. So I was okay, so he's probably gonna charge me like £1, two at max because of cover problems. No, he wants £5 a pop. I was like, excuse me?
Yeah, right.
I mean, I know maybe you're desperate for making money, but
but you're not going to make any money like that.
No, well.
I'd love to read Tezuka's Blackjack. Yeah, there's a lot out there that I want to read. There's a lot of manga I want to read, but limited shelf space. But yeah, that is one of them for sure.
That's the thing. The people who is into manga and the amount of volumes you have, I know they are tiny first, okay? But shit, you have to have a lot of like big libraries to just collect the stuff like that. I mean, I know this format is actually quite good because it's not and you still continue saying you have a problems of storage, but then
totally.
Do the manga collect those little collected editions? Yeah, they are a ton. Like Bleach, for example. In my library, actually, where I go, they have series Bleach. Of course, nothing in order, but they have, and it's about 150 of them apparently somewhere in something like that. I mean, it's like you have to have like I don't know, where do you put them, and how does it sell?
The kayfabe guys talked to this Japan book hunter guy who he sells online, and he's talking about like the secondary market in Japan is pretty enormous because they're dealing with such space issues in general. You can't keep everything, so they'll get stuff and then turn around and sell it. So you can find amazing stuff in the used manga shops because they just don't have the room in their houses or their apartments or wherever they're living, right? Like they just don't have the space. So that secondary market is glorious for the amount of stuff that you can find and the variety, and so which is kind of a bonus there, right? So if you miss it, you're going to find it pretty quick in the secondary market, I'm guessing, depending on the series, obviously.
Well, when you have to be in Japan to do that.
Yeah.
I wonder what kind. I'm wondering what kind of market you have here. I mean, because I'm not in that realm.
He does really well. So he sells online. I've checked out his site. I think Chaos and Comics has bought from him in the past too. I think he does very well selling to still buy them dirt cheap and then sell them with a little bit of a bump up and stuff. And I think he does very well sending them to other parts of the world.
see.
Because again, it's stuff that we just don't have access to, right? So
Yeah.
he's got his YouTube channel is worth checking out. He flips through books and stuff and kind of talks about the history, and he goes to art shows out there, and he'll have video of the art shows and things too. So it's pretty neat to follow.
Do you remember the name of the guy?
I think his channel is called the Japan Book Hunter, I think is what it's called.
Okay.
I'll send you a link though after this.
Oh, that would be great, because then I don't have to get confused to what I'm looking for. That would be. I'm kind of curious now, because at the end of the day, when you're into that, like when we are in the comic books, we know the market. Yeah, we start to realize the market and how to whatever make it positive towards yourself and whatever you can make a profit of. But then I'm definitely out of the market of manga and see how that works, because the amount of space you have to have. I mean, you have to bloody have like libraries. Maybe just. I've seen somebody was doing some sort of like, not that people do this still like safes on the floor. Maybe you just make a bookshelf on the floor, especially designed ones, because you know people are very inventive when that comes to that thing.
Yeah.
Tezuka.
Cool. You want to talk about your next one? I'm probably going to start shifting inside. I feel like there's rain coming, and I want to make sure I get a jump on it before I get
cool.
poured.
Yeah, cool.
So give her.
Okay. So because you're leaving, I can talk about this then. So because of issue 2 missing, I only have 3 and 4. But I continue. I had to read it because I miss all the stuff. And the story. Starting from the 4th. Don't start from the 4th. 3rd. And so the story. It seems to be when villain. Was chased by turtles, and they basically followed through in time, and they went into time of Usagi's Yojimbo world, 1700, I think, Japan, and they want to hunt the villain, and he looks like I'm actually going to show it to you guys. How does it look like? Where are you, villain? Come to see me. Yeah, it looks like a. It's not like a mummy, but it looks like more robotic kind of style of creature. So interesting enough that he jumps into that time, and he's okay to be who he is, maybe because of they have a feeling of those what they call the monsters. Oh my god, there's a name in Japanese, they call it I don't know. Anyway, so he's jumped into that time of Usagi Yojimbo, and turtles went in with him in order to basically make sure that he doesn't do anything more gruesome than what he possibly can. What is also interesting as well, what they disclosed to us, is that he is jumped forwards more time or backwards more time, and turtles have still to realize. So that's kind of things. Oh, hello, Damien. And what I like about Usagi Yojimbo, or in generally Stan Sakai's work, is he has all the sorts of ninja animals, and the mole ninjas are really kind of looking fearsome, and the way their abilities to basically almost create the earthquakes and under earth realms. But of course, being turtles and Usagi together, they managed to capture the bad guys. And why they were attacking them, because when the villain is basically has hired more ninjas to attack turtles, because he wants to destroy them, and he has this huge plan to take over and be the biggest things. I really like, as always, a bit frustrating because there's there's issue 2 gap. I'm not sure if I should go on the digital side, but I am patiently waiting for my issue to come through with my comic book guy. But unfortunately, the timeline is bad. And the stories continue. And I thought when I read an issue first, to be honest, that the story won't be as entertaining. However, the issue 4 is one of my favorite ones, because we see these villains' creations he managed to do in 17th century, even though as disclosed, and from even turtles were questioning that how he managed to do so, even though he's like really big villain and he's a genius, but he still managed to create something which are out of his time. Also, so issue 4, we start with this character here where if you are Turtles or Usagi, sorry, if you're Usagi, you're Jumbo fan, you'll know his appearance. He lost his nose, and he also is blind, but he still has the ability to smell anything from the distance with this new nose, or and then apparently he has a daughter or a apprentice. So the creations of this Varen villain is kind of like he uses mechanical ninjas creations, which just looks really cool for the era. Oh, you don't have issue 4? Yes, but I think this is one of my favorite because plenty of action scenes, fantastic panels by Stan Sakai, and also the story is continuously being really good. They found this home where he created it, and they were talking about the sheen. They found out that is he is using some sort of power which doesn't exist in that century, but he somehow created solar panels, like the ones we are trying to use now. But yeah, extremely entertaining 2 issues, even though, as I say, I don't have issue 2, which very frustrates me. So I'm showing you off more of the paneling, which is as always. And then also he dragon created as well, mechanical dragon. It was attacking turtles as well, which is fantastic little panels as well. That's a good type issue. It had interesting end regarding the nose and his daughter. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's really, really good. Like after not having this Stan Sakai stuff because he's been floating into Dark Horse, it's very nice to see this, even though, and also the Turtles is been everywhere. To be honest, now Turtles we have Vivusagi. Now we have Turtles. Will be having the Stranger Things series, so they making the money out of that realm, and it's very kind of frustrating, especially because I do enjoy my Turtles, but it's not feasible for me to continuously getting everything whatever IW is putting out with Turtles. And I'm wondering what kind of like storytelling they're going to do with Stranger Things as well. Anyway, yeah, so one of the more fantastic series. As I say, I was very hesitant, but this 3 and 4 issue, but especially this issue 4, has made me like looking forward to know what's happening in the storyline. Because Usagi is going there, but he can't really help because he has his own kind of commitments. Because now he's a general in this part. Before he was just running around doing his own business, but suddenly he's become general. He has his girlfriend. Seems to be, I don't know if mentioned, but yeah, Stan Sakai. And also, every time I read Usagi, I always look up to see what kind of like action figures that Stan Sakai come up, and he has this black and white one, and it's like, oh, geez,
it looks incredible, doesn't it?
Yeah, because it looks at the same style as Turtles have, that like a comic style action figure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so yeah, it's fantastic looking, but it's not very like, I don't know, it's like special, like those in America they do those Walmart specials.
Yes.
And I don't know if you guys following Stan Sakai on socials, but he was promoting even in America. You can have a spicy sauces with Usagi on Usagi like on the bottle, so like special brandings. I think he's doing it to just get the brand done, because this brand Doku, his will be the whole realm of Usagi, and that's what he's going to be labeled by, I think, in Dark Horse, as far as I know my facts.
Okay.
And so yeah, so I honestly this made me. I mean, the issue 3 was absolutely fantastic, but this one, it just made me more entertaining because of these creatures this villain is creating. They are going after, and I think definitely if you're gonna go continuous reading, it's really good. I don't think you've seen it, but this dragon scenes, one of my favorite panels. Sorry.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah. So, and it's just an interesting take, some stuff.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to reading this for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, really good. As I say, it's nice. It's quite pricey but they start doing that with in like limited edition comics. They're coming up with a higher price tag on it.
Mhm.
But after not having it for a while, as I say, Usagi storylines, it becomes like Stan Sakai always wins you over, no matter how many. You just need to open and start reading, kind of thing. Because it was like the beginning of a story. Oh, you're going after the villain. You're going jump in time. It seems like like hashed out storyline. It's still continuously kind of in that fashion, but I don't know. Maybe because it's creating these creatures, and his art style is still continuously to be so strong still to this day. It really still amazes me how good Usagi is in generally, and I keep on looking. Like I say, it all gives me that bug where I want the action figure, or I want the collected edition all the time. Every single time I read it, it's like quite bad, I guess, because that action figure is like 70 quid.
Yeah,
That's
they're not cheap.
Yeah, then the NECA ones aren't pricey, and he even come out like with a limited edition himself. And what he did, he drew an art style at the back of the packaging. So you have like special art style on each like action figure box basically, and it went like in, what did they say, 1 hour? You got like
Wow.
And it wasn't a lot. Like what was it, 200 or 300? I don't know. I think maybe even 100 because we had to draw on each. Don't forget on each box with special art on each one. So I guess each box will be unique with a signature and stuff like that. So it went like that. It's like, and he's like, oh, thank you, people, like for doing that. But I mean, he has a lot of like those kind of fans. Like, I mean, if you like Usagi, if you start with Usagi, you're definitely going to continue with him. Like it's just it's so consistent, but so good, and his stories. I mean, so endearing to me, and I don't know, it's very entertaining.
I see we had some newcomers while I was getting set up in here.
Gorvidal.
Hello, how are you?
And Damien came through.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool.
Are we talking about Shakira and Nelly Furtado?
Shakira and Nelly and all sorts of things here.
The Met Go comes into Texas and then all that stuff.
Yeah, the conversation. Nelly Furtado, yeah, that's what he was listening to. Yeah. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for peeling yourself away from that gore to join us here. So I only have a few things. There's stuff, mostly stuff that I did read this. I got nothing really to say about it. This is that you've been canceled from this Mad Cave Comics. They were the ones that were doing that, whatever it was about those collectors on Earth, the garbage men on Earth, whatever the hell that book is called. They had this as a backup story. It wasn't much of anything. I was curious enough to give it a shot. It didn't do much for me. I may pick up the second issue just to see, but yeah, I mean, I'll talk about it maybe more when I've read maybe the next issue. It didn't blow me away. The art style is pretty cool, but the story itself seemed kind of run of the mill so far. So I don't.
Who's the artist?
A bunch of names that I got no fucking idea about. Here, I'll make myself big.
Good. Okay.
Here's Kevin Castanero, Jason Wordy, Mika Myers. I imagine those are some colorists there. So, but the style is pretty good for sure. Like it has a pretty good look to it, even inside. But yeah, it's whatever. Canceled. Everybody wants to talk about people being canceled. I was hoping again, like with Scumbag there, whatever it was called. It's this. There's a good idea there. I feel like there's a good kind of framework for some really good satire, and then they just kind of float it in, and they don't really
play it safe.
Like there's good territory here to do a lot of really good stuff, but I feel like they're just taking the easy way. This guy is one of the people that goes around and kills people. Once you've been canceled in this future, you get murdered on live TV. But then something happens, and now he's being canceled, wouldn't you know? It's come back to bite him in the ass, hoisted by his own petard. And it just is a little kind of like dull. That premise is a little dull for me. So
Ah, okay.
So instead, I'll talk about this because this impressed me quite a bit. To the fact of I need to find more of her comics because these were goddamn amazing little stories. So this was a couple of the stuff that I got from Domino, and I will not butcher the name. Julia is her first name. And holy smokes, I enjoyed these thoroughly. This is a very, very minimal art style, but such engaging stories. This first one is kind of about a relationship between this couple and kind of the ups and downs that they're having, including kind of this something lurking in their room that kind of is kind of lurking over the relationship. It's so well told, and it's such a nice story, and it's yeah, I love everything about this kind of thing. This is like, again, it's one of those things of trying out some of these comics. They can really yield some amazing results, and this is kind of one of them. It's like digging through the back issue bin and finding something that's there's your boner of the episode there. Finding something that really jumps out of those dollar bins. It's the same thing here. Some very personal stories, it seems like, and told in a really, really great way. But I love her art style. I love that it's not kind of hyper detailed. Just this kind of simplicity, I guess, is maybe more of the way to put it. So this was an engaging story. And then this other one that I got from her was called Palm Ash. I think Domino has about 4 or 5 of her books. They're all kind of these slimmer volumes, these mini volumes. Cuban Press is her, I think that's hers. And this was Comic Expo 2014. Black is the color. Copy that. I'll look for that one there, AFPC, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to do another Domino order sooner than later, I think. And I'd like to pick up the rest of them. So this is kind of the basic premise is Christians and the Romans. So the Christians being kind of fed to the lions, and this one woman and her story. She kind of works, I guess is the wrong way to say it, but she's kind of part of the Romans, and she sort of sees to the prisoners to make sure that they're fed and everything, and sort of taken care of before they go out to meet their inevitable end. And kind of her relationship, or these two main women, their relationships with one of them has a relationship with one of the Roman guards, and the other one has a relationship, ends up having a different kind of relationship with the prisoners. She wants him to baptize her son, and kind of the problems that those two relationships cause these women kind of being on the periphery. Such a good story. Again, really solidly told. Like, these aren't thick books. We're only talking, like a dozen pages kind of thing, if that. But they're so beautifully told and so kind of concise. Really good. And this one takes, and I'm going to make sure before I show you stuff, because I won't show you the last couple of pages here. I'll just show you up to here, because this one has a pretty abrupt right turn at the end of the book, which kind of, again, one of those books that you read and makes you gasp out loud. It kind of, it took me by surprise. I didn't see it going the direction that it did. It made sense to go that direction looking back on it, but beautiful stuff. Julia's art and storytelling is really exceptional. Thank God, like I said before a million times, thank God a place like Domino exists, because well worth checking into for sure. And unfortunately, with some of this stuff, I mean, these weren't too bad. These were $5 a piece. So you do end up taking a chance on kind of a slim comic, but for me, I think it's worth it. Since I'm not spending that money buying new issues or having a giant pull list, I'd rather kind of put that towards things like this. I just wish it was a little bit cheaper to get things up here to Canada. Almost got myself a PO box in the States, and I can drive. There's this place, Pembina, just across the border from us. A lot of guys, they get stuff mailed to that PO box and then take a trip down once a month and just go and pick stuff up, because then they can save on that shipping, because oftentimes there's free shipping within the United States. So I may start really for real looking into something like that, because I think it'll just save me a boatload of money in the long run.
If you're continuously having and enjoying the stuff from like that, and the only thing is what's stopping is the postage, is kind of bad, don't you think? So it's I presume Domino Books is it's American publishing house, yeah, publishing house.
Correct. Yeah, it's Austin English. So he's the current editor at Comics Journal. He self-publishes stuff through Domino Books. He's got a bunch of books out now, but he's had this distribution for quite a long time, and been, just his story is amazing. It's really he carries some incredible stuff. He started carrying some more hard to find manga as well too, which is pretty great. That stuff sells out immediately though. He kind of gets it in. It doesn't last very long before it kind of gets swept up. He had a guy that was buying some old underground comics for him as well too that he could put in his store, and pretty much the same story there. That stuff was selling out almost immediately. But he really kind of focuses on kind of the newer kind of artier side of comics. A lot of new creators. It saw her speak at the NY Comic Symposium pre-pandemic when the events were still held in physical space. Fascinating artist and research presentation on horror vacui informing her work. Awesome. I'll look, because a lot of those comic symposium stuff, they go on, they do again online. Yeah, the Garrow stuff goes fast. Yes, exactly. AFPC knows. So yeah, really, really nice stuff. Really good books. Both of them were equally enjoyable. I kind of devoured them pretty quickly, one after the other, so.
It looks interesting, and the art style is Harling. If there's more like things that she has produced, like black and white, whatever, but or black in color, I think what it is.
Yeah, that was the one he said, black is the color. Yeah.
Yeah. So I looked it up while you were talking about to see her. Interesting surname for American. I wonder where's the heritage, actual like daddy or mommy used from. So because that's kind of surname is like, sounds like more European based kind of.
Yeah. Kind of absolutely. And I couldn't even tell you the first way to pronounce that. That's why I left it far alone. I left it well alone. Yeah.
Yeah, it's entertaining though to see that. But yeah, it's I wonder. I think there's that comic book shop in London. They like to tend to get stuff from all sorts of publishing houses. But as I say, not easy to go for me.
Yeah, right.
Especially Domino Books. If I looked it up, the shipping I don't even want to look at, because it goes across the pond. This is the only book I haven't read, but this is the only book I have from a library, which I picked up just yesterday. So yeah, I didn't have time to. It's a Fantagraphics book, and it's by like Leli. I don't know. It's Leli. It looks like this face sold me, even though I don't really look much. I just saw it. I was pick it up. It seems to be more like relationship based, but she's using these. When they're running or they're chasing something, they turn into these creatures, and there's only a couple of colors in this whole book, and it's all about the two girls' relationship, and also her relationship with a sibling who has a child, and they basically sometimes take the child with them, but they basically hunting, like go for hunt. Oh, this escaped, and they turn into these creatures. But so far, because I've read the first chapter, and so far where I get it is that they kind of lost that child, that creature. Well, looks like a deer, and then they lost them, and they kind of like while they're in conversation, they turn into being the humans. So I don't know if she's she's showing the state of mind of the people. But so far it's intriguing to look. So I want to, and I haven't really finished it all. So I want to see, because this relationship between her sister, it's very strained, even though she still asks to take care of her niece, and she's more willing. And but she has this relationship with a female who they are kind of like maybe a bit strained, like even though while we're having intimacy, they kind of turn in those faces, and they look like scratched. They look like like a couple of creatures. So they're lying in a bed afterwards, and seems to be all normal. But yeah, interesting. I don't know what, as I say, I don't fully understand the whole story yet. But so far from the one chapter, their relationship, even though as cool as it looks like so far, they kind of really strained, because she's not like giving enough attention to one. So and they keep on asking questions, that kind of parts where if you don't communicate, you're gonna be straining your relationship, because people can't read your minds, unfortunately, as much as we wish in some situations they would. So it seems to be what they're trying to portray in here. So this is chapter 2 will be beginning, which I haven't, as I say, yet finished reading. But the art style is continuously being as the same, and the color scheme as well. So throughout it, so it looks fantastic. Yeah, exactly. And I absolutely love it. I like this simplistic stuff. I like this only two tone of one color and black and white. That I absolutely adore that kind of style now. The more I've been reading, the more I'm being entertained by that kind of. So because it's it depends what story you're telling, I guess. And this color, the choice of color seems to be driven by mood, because it seems to be every single time they've been using it, they have in conversation with somebody or something happens and stuff like that. Maybe I'm just guessing, but it's really cool. It's kind of look bluish, but it's like gray blue, kind of, that tone of another type of, because there's so many grays. Anyway, so yeah. So Fantagraphics came out with this book.
Yeah, that looks amazing. It looks really nice.
Yeah, so because as I say, I've been in library because of my son, but I haven't really seen much of whatever dragged my attention, because I kind of seen the same things, because I've been kind of reading a lot. You remember I was telling you, it's kind of difficult to see that, but this is kind of like one of the more like Fantagraphics as well. Also, is kind of always entertains me, because it's different art style and presentation of the storyline. It seems to be Fantagraphics. I don't know, maybe just my experiences, but Fantagraphics likes those moody type of storylines. Where they're like you have a family situation straining, or like a relationship between two people, no matter whatever same sex relationship, whatever, it doesn't matter. But it seems to be a lot of it like those, like your mental psyche, or maybe it's just what the books I picked up, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm drawn to that as well. But I guess that's what my choice is also, because of the library. But yeah, it's a lot of that driven by Fantagraphics, which is, it's kind of sometimes really eye-opening.
Yeah.
And stuff. So, but yeah, so far it's good.
Speaking of Fantagraphics, the new Daniel Clowes book, Monica, is open for pre-orders right now. I think it comes out in August.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Colin read a copy of it and said it's pretty amazing. So I'm looking forward to that. I think I'd be doomed if I lived anywhere close to driving distance from Fantagraphics. I think I would just kind of have every single. I
go browse sometimes through their website.
Yeah, so do I.
For shits and giggles, to be honest,
right.
because I know I'm not gonna reach that level of I would like this one. Especially they do. He even did for somewhere Usagi or Jumbo book, I think, reprints. It looks good. Okay, cool.
Yeah, AFPC is sort of chuckling. He wouldn't call Prison Pit moody. I know what you're saying. They do have some other stuff, but they seem to really kind of focus on an area of comics that kind of has a certain ethos, but they do have some sidelines and some offshoots for sure. Gore Vidal saying, Monica, maybe the first Clowes book I read, it looks good. You haven't read any Clowes before, Gore Vidal. I really liked Patience. I thought Patience was fantastic. It's been a long time since I read it. Ryan Carey, friend of the show, Ryan Carey, he recommended it way back when we were kind of hanging out in the Friday chat room and stuff. And I picked it up and I enjoyed it. And that was the first Clowes I had read in quite a long time, actually. And it sort of kind of got me back into looking into Clowes and the books that I'd missed over the years. So I enjoyed Patience though. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to Monica.
I'm not really into Clowes, I guess. I haven't read all the ones I wanted to read. Like you couldn't find it. What's the most famous? 8 Ball? 8 Ball?
Yeah, 8 Ball is famous. Ghost World is another famous one.
Then I like Ghost World. Yeah. I read that one. I was just thinking.
Death Ray is another one. Death Ray is a pretty good one. Yeah, I mean, I'd say just give them a chance. If you find any one at your library, just pick any of them up and just. I've read Patience.
but nothing did for me. I didn't.
Right.
It
you
didn't. I don't have. I know that I can't even. I can picture the face of the cover of the
Yeah.
patient, so
Yeah,
I can. I can see it in my. I remember clearly that. But what's inside, I don't, because that something didn't register right. Ghost World, I read through from the beginning to the end so fast, and I really properly enjoyed it.
Yeah, Ghost World is a fun read for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a classic for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, David Boring is great too.
Yeah, I think I have.
And I'm surprised Scarlett Johansson in Ghost World, and you haven't seen it, Gore. It's a good. They do a good job with it. They do a really good job. The Criterion DVD, if you get that, or the Blu-ray or whatever, there's an excellent commentary, and Klaus is in the commentary as well too, and it's well worth listening to.
Yeah, read the Ghost World before you watch the movie. I think it's better.
Absolutely. Read it before you watch the movie for sure. Yes, that's right. I saw that Tim Morant made an appearance. I didn't watch the video talking about Death Ray. He said it was his favorite superhero book. I may pick up that book too. Yeah.
Yes. World of Love. Somehow it sounds familiar, but I'm not sure. If I looked, maybe I need to keep an eye on it, because Daniel Klaus seems to be quite popular in my library. I'm not sure how far they reach, because I know that the 8-Ball, not present.
That would be harder to find, because there would just be sections of 8-Ball that would have been brought out to make graphic novels. Like Ghost World appeared in 8-Ball, that sort of thing. So that's where it first, and Velvet Glove first appeared in 8-Ball, and then they brought it out to do so he was doing kind of strips in that, but there was also some continuing story then they made graphic novels.
It doesn't seem they have any more patients in the library. Apparently they've been I guess they're taking refreshing the library, because Daniel Klaus is only one book now. It was more choice.
Which one do they have?
Ghost World.
Ghost World. Okay, yeah.
I have that myself in the floppy. I mean, not the floppy, but in graphic novel. I bought it. I actually really enjoyed it. I think it's one of the best ones. I mean, I really like the story. I don't know. It's just the way the characters were written by him. Really. And not all like Saga. Lovely.
Right.
I need to see that Death Ray. What you guys? So is Death Ray a superhero-based storyline? Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Because I never.
That I haven't even read though. I haven't even read Death Ray.
Because I
saw that it was like this superhero-based thing. I think I think that instinctively I avoided it, not on purpose, but I think that played a part in my subtext.
Oh, I wouldn't even think that he would have gone that route. Oh wait, I've seen the picture, and Wilson is there as well. I mean, I
really liked Wilson.
The patients, the chick on the page with the multicolor, that like a rainbow side of them, and David Boring. Yes, I know that one.
There's something about the new book, Monica. I see that world. I see that lettering. Sorry, of Monica, and for some reason I read it as like America. Like I wonder what the subtext. I wonder what the story's about. I'm very, very curious. I'm looking forward to it. I think, at any time, like there's some of those artists where it feels like they're going to be, those few books that we read as a group here on YouTube. I think this Monica is going to be one of those books. Yeah, there you go. That's
can you see it? Yeah, so this is Death Ray. Yeah, not bad. Yeah. Okay, it looks interesting. Well, definitely down, his stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. No, I'm just looking to see what they're talking about. The Ice Haven.
Yeah, Ice Haven. Yep.
Oh my goodness, £60 for the copy. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Definitely. So Monica, it's the new one. I wonder.
I think you can pre-order it on Fantagraphics. I think the price was like $30 American, which seems pretty reasonable. I'll probably see if my guys can get it at the comic shop for me, and
it says October release date.
Oh, October. Okay, yeah. So not August.
Well, I'm probably maybe never know, they change. That's the cover you're talking about, yeah.
That's the one. Yeah.
Great. Looks very, very. I like the background. It looks very much like those all the comic books with the space, the way they drew. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So yeah, it looks nice. I like, and there's 30 cent on one of the cover. So what is he trying to portray it as a comic? Oh,
You heard it here first, folks. Death Ray and Monica will be read by Gore Vidal by the end of this year. Perfect. There you go.
there
We're
you
gonna
go.
hold you to that there, Gore.
And then you're gonna become a specialist of Dan Klaus then afterwards.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Or he'll report back and go, guys, no.
What the hell you were talking about? Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah, a lot of people who talk about 8 Ball all the time and it comes to Daniel Klaus. Okay, so do you think that's just for people? You would recommend that first?
What I would recommend first, I mean, it's hard for me to recommend anything first. For me, it would be 8 Ball, just because that's where I started with Daniel Klaus, right? Like that was that was a life-altering read, like that stuff. You know, I've talked about it a million times, but that book, that anthology, one-man anthology, seeing that there was stuff out there like that, the Peter Bagge stuff that I was reading, all of that stuff from Fantagraphics and Drawn and Quarterly, like for me, that's life-changing reading for me when it came to comic books. So I would recommend that stuff. But I think for you, something like, I think Death Ray would be a good place to start, you know? And then kind of, and honestly, I'd give Monica a chance when it comes out, and that's sight unseen, but I think it's going to be one that, you know, it would be good to talk to you about too, especially as someone who's maybe not as familiar with Klaus, to get that perspective. I think would be good. Yeah, David Boring, that's a damn good recommendation for sure. AFBC.
I think I was wondering to get the David Boring book because I think I've seen it somewhere, like for the time when you were talking about 8 Ball. I was looking at 8 Ball, but then I saw it. I think they re-released it 8 Ball with it's being like it wasn't hardcover. That's for sure.
They did a slipcase 2 hardcover collection of it, like they did with Hate and Neat Stuff and things. So they did a whole slipcase that was, and then they did a soft cover version of it. And I think Damien was talking about it. And the soft cover collection, not as good for the usual reasons, like because it's so much material, you can't kind of open it all the way. And honestly, I would be a little hesitant to kind of suggest 8 Ball to people, because even though that's the one that meant the most to me early on, it's a difficult read coming into it. I feel like his perspective has shifted a little bit across his other books. He still has kind of his Klaus perspective on humanity and things like that, but it's a little even more kind of cynical, and some of it is kind of, it reads a different way looking back at it. You know what I mean? I think it's one of those books that's sort of its time, even though it's not like it doesn't translate now. I think it is more of its time. I think starting on some of the graphic novels, I think, is your best bet for sure.
Cool. No, that Monica cover, I really like that one.
Yeah.
From the cover point of view. Not saying, you know, anything else, but in that Death Ray, so it looks like kind of kinky, entertaining superhero stuff. This from what just cover says to me, I don't know anything what's inside. But the way it's dressed and the character, like the age of character, seems to be is kind of, are you going to play with that kind of stuff? You never know with him, isn't it? Then Klaus can come up with something.
Yeah, and that outsider perspective on superheroes. I mean, outsider is probably not the right word, but you know, like coming at it from a different angle, I guess, is maybe the better way to say it, because it's not like he didn't like superhero comics growing up. I think he's just got a different perspective on him. So
AFBC, if I could get hold of at least one issue of 8 Ball in that format, I would. But then when I see some, it's like, I mean, especially I'm talking about internet prices, not comic book shop prices. So I don't dwell into those, unfortunately, because there's none of them around me. And there's one which is completely overpriced, and they don't do back issues. They only do stuff new. Just kind of, annoys me.
And honestly, 8 Ball, it's so rare to find those in back issue bins. Like, they just, you know, because I've got some gaps in the collection of my 8 Ball run, and they're just, you know, you got to buy them at kind of inflated copies.
I have an extra of 16. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
There is 2 publishing. There are hardcover ones, slip ones, which is applying really good quality, as well as out of print for a long last time. And there's softcover ones, but apparently Loss is the kicker, which is a shame. Totally. That's what's with softcovers. That somehow somebody needs to realize that the way you do softcover and how thick you're going to get into definitely going to lose some because it's just gonna never open. It just doesn't
Yeah.
open.
Yeah.
And so bad. Anyway, it's just my thing. I don't like soft covers at all. I have a
Yeah.
couple, but they are usually the ones I have. They are really thin. Or mistaken. I have one that Uber Alles edition, which is actually when I opened it the last time, it was being sitting on the shelf. I opened it just recently, just wanted to see it out again. I think one of the pages already started like doing this. I was like, oh come on, man, no, it's probably gonna fall apart. But this
Yeah.
like phone book edition, fantastic cheap way of actually owning it. But and they still hasn't come out with that other one, Sunshine and Roses edition for the collected. So
He's saying, seriously, I'll give it to Colin when he's back out here in the fall and he can get it to you. Yeah. The meeting of AFPC and Colin face to face took place. I'm jealous.
make sure you ask them to take pictures. Like, selfies.
Yeah. I didn't ask him to take pictures, but I was hoping there would be some photographic evidence, but unfortunately there wasn't. Yeah. So just quickly, just kind of show you the last couple of things here. I don't have a ton to say about them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's me. What did he just left? Oh no, Terrence, come on. He's like, bye people. I'm done for now. I hope he's gonna come back. Otherwise, it's just gonna be like very interesting for me to be here. Retro reflective face paint. Oh, does that mean that the camera doesn't pick it up? I don't know. Or maybe just making stuff up. Oh, there you go. He's back. What happened?
Hello?
Hello? Are you there?
Oh, geez. Now it's all glitchy.
Oh, is it?
Oh, no, there you go. You're back. I pulled a, that's what I call pulling a Jared Osborne. Going to do solo layout and then booting yourself out of the stream, which is what I just did there.
I was like, what is going on here? You left me alone. Do I finish the show now?
I hit remove from stream instead of solo layout. Brilliant.
Oh, hilarious.
Anyway, so just very short words on these last two. Or these last few things. So this is Ghouls from Josh Simmons. Two of his mini comics. I think he did 3 of them. And these are brilliant. Josh Simmons is quickly becoming one of my favorite cartoonists. I love his take on stuff. I love his style. I love his kind of, he almost has this very, I don't know, disastrous outlook on things that are going on that kind of play into a lot of his comics and even like these one pagers. So it feels like there's a collection of stuff maybe from sketchbooks that he kind of fleshed out. There's not like a story going through all of it, but I really do like his stuff. And then Saint Rory, so Rory Hayes from the underground comic scene. Really, really cool.
Is that what is called Wandering Eye?
Yes. And this was one of my favorite strips here. America's got COVID. COVID? Got COVID? COVID for me? And he starts licking toilets and licking people's pee so he can get COVID. It's just brilliant. I really like his stuff. He's got quite a take on things, and his style is it's such a good style. This is a nice page here too. So these are fun. Again, Domino. So that's well worth checking out. The one that I kind of had high hopes for turned out to be, the art was beautiful. I loved the coloring. Boring autobio trash turned out to be kind of the same kind of thing. It was kind of 1-pagers and 2 pages of autobiography. It was the one thing that I did enjoy about it was the layouts. There's nothing like panel borders going on in here. It feels like these are very almost stream of conscious type of drawings with I say no panel borders and then the very next page is panel borders, but there's kind of this stream of consciousness kind of drawing that's taking place where you do get some autobio-ish type of stuff, but it's not as kind of overt and dull as some of the other stuff, but it also didn't kind of, again, it's my own thoughts on things, what I'm going into these hoping I'm going to find, as opposed to just reading things on their own merit, right, is always a problem. But I love the art style. I love the trashy, I love the trashiness of kind of the style. I love the coloring, like this Sharpie coloring, I think is pretty incredible. So it was fun for that. But the stories itself, I can't really say that many of them stuck with me, but the art style I'm absolutely all for. So I'd like to find some more of that. And this is Heather Lose is her name, right there on the front. And then finally had the infamous Hypermutt, which is actually up to 5 issues now. So there's one more. And it was good to read all these as a chunk. He does so this is Max Huffman. I always want to call him Matt Huffman. This is Max Huffman's mini comic, sort of about, there was some really funny dialogue in here. The one page that kind of caught my attention the most, I'll just read it to you.
Mm-hmm.
He goes out on this date with this woman and kind of finds out who she is.
Mm-hmm.
My God, you're a celebrity. And then she says, Biogenetics Digest called me the enfant terrible of Big Pharma. And then his response is, why, just last week, the Business Park shopper called my letter to the editor terribly infantile. And I thought that was fucking hilarious. I thought that was a really good 2 panels there. So he's got a really cool style. She's doing some genetic experiments on animals, and she creates what is the Hypermutt, which is this big ball of dogs. It's all the species of dogs rolled up into one. And at the back page always kind of ends with it becomes and then when you read the next issue, Hypermutt. And then on the back of this one, those monsters took my Hypermutt. So it always kind of continues. It has this really nice way of continuing from the covers onto the back covers. I like the story. I'm curious to see where it's going. This was one of those books that I think made the best of list for last year. I guess I can't quite see it. I don't know what else was on the list, but it's a damn good book. It would be nice to, hopefully when the whole thing is said and done, that it turns into, honestly, Big Ball of Dogs Infinity title. Yes, absolutely. I'm hoping that once he's done, it kind of gets collected into something. It's one of those that I wouldn't mind. I've never tried binding mini comics, but it might be nice to try to do a little special edition for myself of binding these together. So, but yeah, good stuff. That's about it. The last 2 things that I haven't finished reading them was the Cyanide Swamp, which so far is really great, and then Cowlick 6, which is so far really great. It's visually good, though I can't say again too much about the stories, but I haven't finished reading either of these yet, so I'm hoping to get to them this week. Some good kind of modern underground anthologies, so we'll see how those are once I've made it my whole way through.
So this domino effect we're seeing on your reading, is it because you just received recently the delivery of missed something?
Yeah, I just got these not too long ago. I placed an order, and this was the stuff that came in. I did a very, very short video because this one kind of, which is why I'm not talking about.
Yeah, I saw this one.
Yeah, this is the one that you popped in the live stream.
Yeah.
And this was fantastic. And I honestly, like, Floyd Tangeman, I would love to get some original art from Floyd. I think I haven't reached out to him yet because I don't have the money just yet. But I really want to get some original art from him because I love his style. He's got a real, it's an amazing kind of mix of a whole bunch of stuff, underground and graffiti and, you know, just that naive kind of style, but just so goddamn cool. Like, I just love the stuff so much. It's really unique, very unique voice, you know, seems to be. So,
So it looks like Domino is right up your alley. So you definitely should think about that PO box, man.
Yeah, I think so. But then the worry about getting a PO box, of course, is, well, now it's free shipping or it's cheap because I think for Domino to get it up here to Canada right off the bat, you got to click a button for international orders that automatically adds $20 onto it. and then it goes up from there if you depending on how much you buy. I think this order cost me $21 or something like that, 21 American, that is.
Mhm.
So I think to get it delivered in the States, I think is $5 or $10 American, so like half the amount. So it would probably be worth it, but then it's taking the drive down there, which is gas and all that kind of stuff, and crossing the goddamn border to get to a PO box, etc. But I'm planning to go down to Minneapolis to Ryan Carey's festival next month. I think it's the 19th. Can't remember the date, 12th or the 19th. I think it's the 19th. I'm
Mhm.
going to go to his comic festival. So if I did order something, I might do it then, so I can kind of pick it up on my way back home, pick it up before I come back home.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Just make sure you have up-to-date passport, and that's it. Gas you spend anyway, and you
That's right.
have hybrid, so don't say that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're totally right. I'll save a lot on gas. Absolutely. Yeah.
Just make sure you top up the batteries. I don't know how the hybrid works, but anyway.
No, it generates itself on brakes. When you brake and stuff, it charges the battery itself, so you don't need to.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, so
Yeah.
make sure you brake a lot. So there you go.
Totally.
You get your cheaper.
Yeah. Just go real slow. I'll go like 40 the whole way, so I can use battery the entire way.
Yeah. And annoy people behind.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Cool.
All right. Wow.
Well, yeah, we went. We had a good dose of comics.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, everybody, for hanging out with us this week.
Thank you.
No promises. We'll be here next week. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, next week I'm camping, so probably
camping.
So no Siri for my end of the world. So yeah, because I don't know if I would be back on Sunday or not. So I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I would probably be back on Sunday, but then after the camping, I definitely wouldn't want to do anything else.
No, you'll probably be wiped out.
Yeah. So So
okay, anyway. So maybe we'll look at maybe 2 weeks from now anyway. But we're around online. Come and say hi, and hope everybody's doing well. And thanks for hanging out, everybody who came this week. And we will talk to you soon.
We'll mention something.
Right on.
Bye.